that Barbara?
Yes.
Barbara, call the roll, please.
There is.
We have Commissioners
We have a substitute.
Berard, Thunderbird, and Vasquez present. We have,
Can you say that again, please,
Okay.
Barbara?
we have Commissioners Berard, Thunderbird, and Vasquez present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. Opening remarks, I don't have any. General public comments, it looks like there are 3 public comments.
All right, we have actually 2 public comment cards for number 2. Please limit your time to 2 minutes. The first speaker is Linda Romney.
Good morning. Apparently there is going to be a settlement of the class action against the DWP. Their horrific, inaccurate billing system. However, I don't understand why there's a settlement because it continues to this day. I've written no less than 50 letters to the management. I've appeared repeatedly before this commission, and the problems still persist. Specifically, when a tenant leaves and then it is requested that the utilities go back in the name of the landlord, and DWP refuses to do so. In spite of the fact that you're writing letters telling the DWP that their billing is incorrect, it takes them a year to correct the billing, while meanwhile the utilities are turned off and a half an acre of professionally landscaped property is left to die. What is there then? There's an accumulation not only of those damages, but of the damages of loss of rent, which continue to this day. Because as you know, it is a very competitive area. You cannot take a tenant to a property that has dead lawns, non-existent, dead trees, and the lawn area does not allow for a void. So what do you end up with? You end up with constant weeds. Persistent then, when finally the utilities are turned back on and the bill is corrected after a year, what occurs? But when I try to correct and remedy the situation, the DWP bills are not sent to the proper address. I have sent correspondence. I personally brought them in. I've even brought the copy to the commissioner, and they've been conformed. Nevertheless, your billing system is inaccurate, and it has still not been corrected, and the bills, after almost 1 year, are still not going to the proper address. Something needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Evan Gillespie.
Hi, good morning. My name is Evan Gillespie. I work with the
Morning.
Sierra Club. 2 minutes probably doesn't quite do this justice. I will resist my temptation to take longer. But we just wanted to come up and formally welcome Commissioner Vasquez to the board. We are truly excited to work with you. We think this is a great moment for the utility and for the public. And congratulations on your appointment, and welcome to the board.
Thanks. That was the last card for item 2?
There's no third card?
No, not for 2.
Okay. Let's see. Report briefing by the general manager, including reports from water, power, and administrative system management.
Thank you. Just one item, and I'm going to turn it over to Marty to present it.
Thank you. You may have noticed I was absent the last 2 board meetings. I was on a trip overseas that started with an invitation to speak at the Global Water Summit in Madrid, which is a gathering of water leaders throughout the world, ministers responsible for water, utility chiefs, and such. At that summit, we were able to present on a lot of the innovation efforts that we're doing and the changes that we're making at the utility here. And I'm pleased to announce that we had some special recognition at the summit. There's a new group starting known as the Leading Utilities of the World. It was actually started The chair is a man named Howard Newkrug, who was the former chair of Philadelphia Water, and now he actually is a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Inaugural group that worked on this was DC Water, who's very innovative if you're familiar with Washington, D.C., Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District, Waterworks Bureau of Katashiyoshi in Japan, the Water Corporation of Australia, Public Utilities Board from Singapore, and WaterNet from Amsterdam. So at this meeting, a number of other agencies were invited to present, to look to become members of this prestigious group. And at that meeting, people were accepted from Budapest Waterworks, Southeast Water from Australia, Atlanta Department of Watershed Management, VCS Denmark, K-Water, which supplies water to about 60% of South Korea, and the LA Department of Water and Power. And so we were actually inaugurated into the group, received a trophy, naming us as one of the leading utilities of the world. And that was a great recognition, especially because in our vision statement and our newly minted strategic plan, we want to be recognized and known globally as a leader in innovation and in our industry. And so we have this new trophy recognizing us and a new role to participate in with other worldwide utilities. Amazingly, many of the utilities are facing the same sort of challenges we have and the same issues, their own versions of them, but in terms of water availability, customer service, refocusing infrastructure goals and needs. The challenges are the same worldwide, which is kind of comforting to hear, interesting to hear, but the whole idea is to leverage the innovation and ideas that we've been working on here on a bigger audience. I would like to recognize 3 folks from the water system that have worked a lot on this effort. Nelson Mejia from Water Exec, and Marlene Stasiak from Water Quality, and Jonathan Leong, from Assistant Director of Water Quality. They put a lot of time into our innovation efforts. We've collectively talked to more than 50 companies from 11 countries. We have probably 8 to 10 either products in use or pilots underway right now, trying to find the best and brightest technologies out there so we can move the agency ahead. But it was nice to have some international recognition for our efforts, so just wanted to let you know that we received this award. Thank you.
Well done, Dr. Adams. you never fail to impress and do a great job in representing the department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners related to departmental operations. And before Commissioners Barad and Vasquez talk, I will myself provide a hearty welcome to Commissioner Vasquez as our newest commissioner. I have not known her, but I've gotten to know her over the past month. I think that she's a welcome addition, a subject matter expert in the climate and renewables and energy, and was a big proponent of DWP reform that Commissioner Barad and Levine were both in front on. So welcome, Aura. Comments?
I would just like to echo and welcome you to the board.
Comments?
I just want to say that it's very exciting to be here. Thank you all for the support. I am coming, of course, full of ideas and excitement to be here. So I hope that we can all work together to make DWP the best utility in the country. We are already the largest utility in the country, so that we can serve our ratepayers the best, and we can also bring our community together and protect our environment and continue doing the amazing work that we're already doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the ratepayer advocate on agendized items?
I will have comments on items 6A and B, and if necessary, their associated full agenda items, which are 25, 26, and 29.
Okay. Barbara, we have a comment on 6A.
Yes, I have 3 cards for 6A. The first speaker is Adam Lane.
Good morning, Commissioners and General Manager Wright. Commissioner Vasquez, it's nice to meet you, and we welcome you to the board. My name is Adam Lane. I'm the Legislative Director at the Los Angeles Business Council. I want to thank the staff at LADWP and specifically the FIT team for working diligently to craft this new proposal and launch of the feed-in tariff program, and to the Commission for bringing this important item up today. As you know, the LABC has been an advocate for the FIT program since its inception. For the past year, our members have been involved in a stakeholder process with LADWP to help make the program more effective and attractive for developers and building owners. As we transition away from older forms of energy into this new age of distributed energy resources, the feed-in tariff program is creating a clean energy market that binds industries together while creating jobs and expanding a whole new financial market. UCLA has found that 40% of FIT projects are located in low-income communities. The program is creating jobs and economic development for disadvantaged communities that have yet to see the benefits of clean energy. It's also drawn in major institutional players, giants in the real estate industry, and financiers who have discovered that the program is a good financial decision for their companies. And in the second quarter of this year, you'll hear from Jonathan Port that we're going to have the largest feed-in tariff project in the nation in the Port of LA, which is something we should be proud of. Now, with the proposal in front of you today, we have the opportunity to strengthen the program even further. The proposal takes into account feedback from FIT participants, academic institutions, and other stakeholders. The improvements made to the pricing, the process, and the structure will help increase participation, the efficiency of interconnecting projects, and ensuring the pipeline is only filled with shovel-ready projects. All of this is done in a budget-neutral way that is the fastest way to achieve our local solar goals in the IRP. Again, I want to thank LADWP's leadership, the FIT team, and other staff who worked with LABC members over the past year to get this done. Thank you, and we hope you'll approve this new launch of the feed-in tariff program.
Thank you very much for your work and for carrying out the mayor's objectives in this as well. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Graciela Gayer.
Good morning, Commissioners. I also want to welcome Commissioner Vasquez and commend the mayor for adding a new voice and perspective and diversity to the board that was very much needed. And I'm here in support of the restructuring of the feed-in tariff program because not only does it support local business and local workers, but it's clear that we need to rapidly accelerate our transition to distributed renewable energy, and that there are local companies and local workers that are ready to do that and help the utility get there. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you for your service to the community.
Our next speaker is Jonathan Port.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Port, CEO of Perma City. We actually built the largest project down in the port area. So LA City now has about a 16.5 megawatt job. We also helped, this is part of the bundled FIT, we also helped our competitor Hecate achieve probably the largest post office. That was about 14 megawatts. Those two jobs combined created about 400 construction, project management, and manufacturing jobs here in Los Angeles. The jobs were prevailing wage, so the starting wage was at least $25 an hour. We picked up about 50 vets returning home on our job alone through Local 300, who gave them training, and IBEW also had vets. There's now 2 veteran organizations serving this program. It really set out to fill the goals of employment. And I do support what Adam said as from a rate point of view, it's a great balance to the utility projects that we provide these valuable in-basin jobs. These are the jobs that are needed to transition to where the economy is going. As workers get more and more displaced, the green economy, the local green economy is picking up those workers and providing good livings for those families while lowering our rates. So it's been very exciting to be part of it. I commend the commission, the mayor's office, and their leadership. Perma City is just delighted to have the opportunity to participate in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was the last speaker.
All right. Are there any on? I guess we can call the presentation then.
Thank you, Commissioner. At this time, I'm going to ask Jason Rondow and Mukhlisir Bashir to come up, and we'll discuss and answer questions on the relaunch for 2017.
Thank you, Andy.
Commissioner. Testing. Commissioners, this is Mukhlis Bashir, Assistant Director of Power Planning and Development, and we have Jason Rondeau. He's our Solar Program Manager, who will make the presentation on the FIT relaunch and program modifications.
All right, good morning. Thanks for having us. My name is Jason Rondeau. I manage our local solar programs, including our feed and tariff program. And we're here today to talk to you specifically about feed and tariff and some of the challenges that we've had and some of the great progress that we've made, and a proposal that we have to help spur the development and help meet our 150 megawatt goal for the program. And so in short, in a nutshell, what we're proposing is all of the available megawatts from the program that we've offered over the last several years that have not been requested, that are available, we'd like to group them up together and make them available today for developers to come in and start to propose new projects. We'd like to increase the attractiveness, increase the rate of energy that we're willing to pay, but do it in a way that's budget neutral, that doesn't change the originally approved budget. And then finally, we'd like to institute process and program improvements to help ensure that once projects do apply for the program, that they're actually successful and they're deployed in a quick way. And before I do that, I'd like to give a brief program status and a brief program history in order to set the landscape of why these changes are necessary. And so to start, in short, 36 megawatts of feed and tariff solar that's sold back to LADWP that helps meet our renewable portfolio standard goals are in service today, and that's out of a 150 megawatt program goal. Next is our solar incentive program, a much, much more mature program that's been in operation since 1999. We have actually now comfortably over 200 megawatts of solar and well over 25,000 customers that have customer-sited solar. In addition to that, earlier this year we launched our community solar program, and we also have a utility-built solar program where we build, operate, and maintain solar on our own facilities and some City of Los Angeles facilities as well. And finally, we have a very robust, large-scale power purchase agreement solar program with nearly 1,000 megawatts in service today. A couple notes here. Earlier this year, we were recognized as the #2 city in the country for deployed solar in Los Angeles within the city limits. And we were the #4 utility, not just publicly owned utility, but all utilities in the country for deployed solar, and that includes large-scale solar as well. So we're very proud of those achievements. And so to touch on the brief history of FIT 100, and FIT 100 is the first component of 2 components of our FIT program. This is the set price program that we adopted back in 2013. And we started this program at 17 cents per kilowatt hour, and over every 6 months we dropped that down 1 cent, down to 13 cents. And so why did we offer a set price? The reason we offered that set price is we wanted an attractive price to help bring development into Los Angeles. And as time went on, and what that does is it creates a predictable and reliable program so that developers can actually hire and understand that this program will be around for a number of years. And over time, with economies of scale and economies of learning, and as solar prices drop, that price dropped down to 13 cents, which is where we're at today. Some great examples of projects that we have in operation today. What used to be the largest solar facility in the city limits was the Forever 21 headquarters in Lincoln Heights, 5 megawatts. We also recently energized a City of Los Angeles Rec and Parks FIT project. There's a church in South Los Angeles that will soon have a FIT project delivering energy. And interestingly, from a technical standpoint, there will be the first, soon there will be the first FIT and battery installation near the Port of Los Angeles. So a couple really exciting projects in place or soon to be in place through this program. And this is an aerial shot of a feed and tariff project that will be by far the largest in the city of Los Angeles and possibly in the country and the world. It's a 15 megawatt AC installation down at a port distribution facility. Earlier this year, we energized 10 megawatts at the United States Postal Service in South Los Angeles. And later this year, we expect to see another 10 megawatts out at the Port of Los Angeles. And so these large-scale projects were made possible through our FIT 50. This is the second program under the Feed and Tariff program. And the interesting part of this program is that the genesis of this was with a large-scale beacon out of basin in Mojave. Every 4 megawatts that was built at that facility, the developers were obligated to build 1 megawatt in basin. And the attempt here was to drive down the prices to something more competitive, and we were able to do that. We were successfully able to secure 11.7 cents and 13.5 cents. But these are really only achievable through very large-scale projects, which take time and a lot of effort to deploy. And so one of the challenges that we all ran into is the very first milestone of this program was there was a failure to meet that milestone. And what that meant for the developer was the forfeiture of 15 of the 50 megawatts, and LADWP collected $3 million in performance security for that. So that was a big lesson learned for us. This is another photo of that same solar facility on the ground floor during construction. It was reported by the developer that there are over 130 Local 11 jobs, including a pretty robust veteran hiring program. It also required significant effort by our own engineering and construction forces to actually interconnect this extremely large facility. So again, this will be energized a little bit later this summer. And so all told, under the total program, we have 36 megawatts in service today. So we've made very good progress, but we have fallen short thus far of our 150 megawatt program goal. And so why have we fallen short? Some of the lessons learned include interconnection cost. So when you're developing these projects, the uncertainty around interconnection poses a challenge. And if you get very far down the road and you discover the interconnection costs are high, those projects can fail. It's very difficult to get and keep site control for a developer. We've also noticed a very sizable project drop-off after 15 cents per kilowatt hour. And again, the competitive component can reduce price, but it also requires larger scale projects and time. So after close analysis of these successes and challenges, and after extensive outreach and engagement with stakeholders, we are proposing the following program modifications. The first is group all of the available megawatts that have not been requested over the last several years, and that's 65 megawatts. And we'd like to offer them in 2 tracks. One is a set price track. That's predictable. Folks know what the price is. And the second is a block track. And the significance here is if you do not know your project, but you know you want to build one, you can put down a deposit and secure 5 megawatts worth of blocks. And what that does is it gives the developer a hunting license to then go secure site control. So it helps solve that site control challenge. The next proposed modification is to set the base price of energy to 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Today we're at 13 cents per kilowatt hour for large installations and 15 cents per kilowatt hour for the small installations. And what we've seen is when we dropped from 16 to 15 cents, we saw a 60% reduction in applications. When we dropped from 15 to 14 cents, we saw an additional 30% drop in applications. And so here is a representation of that graphically. And so again, every 6 months we offered about 20 megawatts, starting with our first allocation. We initially had 70 megawatts of applications for the first allocation. The significance here is over 50 megawatts dropped out for a variety of reasons, primarily interconnection costs, site control, and we also had a very significant unexpected permitting challenge that was introduced in 2014 that essentially put a 1-year moratorium on the program and also caused a lot of developers to shy away from the program, and it actually caused a lot of projects to fail. And so that's since been resolved. And so over the course of the years, we've seen substantial dropout below limits. So we have available capacity in every single one of these allocations from 17 to 16 to 15. And so what we're proposing to do is to offer all of that available capacity at 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And what this will do is, due to the dropout at 17 to 15 cents, is it will not require a change in the budget and will actually be budget neutral. We will also have the ability for the block track for the developers to bid that down in order to secure megawatts in the event of oversubscription. So there'll be the option to bid that down as well. Onto the process improvements. So again, one of the larger reasons for projects to drop out include delays along the process. And there are 3 major steps prior to construction. And those all happen sequentially. And what we're proposing to do is have them all done in parallel. This introduces a coordination challenge that we will have to manage, but it also accelerates projects, and it ensures that those projects will be a higher likelihood for success. Next, we are proposing, in order to help mitigate the challenge of high interconnection costs, we are proposing the option for developers to help discover those costs earlier. So a developer prior to applying can tell us, I have located this parcel, I want to know if I can interconnect this many megawatts, and what's my interconnection point, and that will help shed light on what those interconnection costs are. In addition to that, we are proposing to publish all historical interconnection costs as well to help developers plan for that. So there's some predictability there as well. And then finally, on the block track where the developers have that hunting license, we are introducing more interim milestones. And this is a lessons learned from our Fit 50 program. We are also requiring that developers have experience or are partnering with somebody with experience locally here, either in Los Angeles or Los Angeles County. And that's to ensure that there are no surprises along the way in development, because often regionally there are very different processes and requirements. And so in addition to that, they would be required to submit a deposit that would help ensure that these projects are delivered and delivered on time. Now, finally, if approved, we would launch this in mid-June, and prior to that, we would conduct a webinar to help go through in very high level of detail all the different steps for application, and that would be probably early June. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question, but are we going to hear from Fred first, or how do you want to do that?
Maybe Fred first.
Yeah.
As you recall, the Fit 100 program was started or initially proposed in January of 13. And I expressed a series of concerns at that time, and then also when it moved forward in the several steps down the process. My objections were threefold. One, the process was not competitive originally in the Fit 100. Two, local solar, especially wholesale local solar in the form of the feed-in tariff, is more expensive than desert commercial scale solar projects. And third, there are problems with the business model. DWP's new program attempts to address a number of those things, but we still have a concern about competitive. The fixed price program is not competitive, although it is sorting out between what has failed and what has not. It's still not a competitive program. The block fit program is competitive, and our reaction is, why not go ahead completely with that approach rather than the fixed price approach. And then second, in terms of cost, the cost gap has widened. While this is the same budget as was proposed in 2013, the competitive cost of commercial desert scale solar has gone down from now bids are in some cases below 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Bids are routinely in the 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour for desert scale solar. So we could have 3 to 4 times as much solar in the desert as we could for the price we pay for local solar. And finally, the business model, they're addressing part of the business model, but the main problem is site control. There appears to be only one team in the area that manages to cut through the site control challenges, but we still think there's a site control problem here. From our perspective, as a ratepayer advocate, we think we're missing an opportunity by not taking more desert commercial scale solar rather than staying with the more expensive fit.
Would we like to have staff respond to that before the commissioners remark, or do you want to have the commissioners go? Dave?
I'd be happy to provide a little information.
Thanks.
I view solar as a portfolio of different approaches: small rooftop, medium rooftop residential, large rooftop fit, and commercial grade, primarily in the desert. All of those provide us the ability and the operating experience on how to integrate large and small solar into our local distribution system, how to bring large amounts of solar from the desert. I think finishing this project, this FIT program, is something that we should look at doing. I do think at the end of this FIT program, we should have a robust discussion here at the board as to how we'd like to spend essentially our next batch of solar funding or renewable funding, because there are pros and cons with each approach. But I do believe we need this portfolio of different types of projects as we evolve from, it wasn't too long ago where we didn't have very much in the way of solar, and we're evolving to a whole lot. How and where should it be? And this will provide those years of experience to get there. So staff really supports the finishing of this FIT program, and then again, kind of discussing the where we go from there. When I say at the end of this program, over the next year or two, as to exactly what we need to do and how we need to invest those funds.
Thanks, that's very helpful. Commissioner Broad, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Aye. It was a few years ago, I don't remember, you may remember, Jason, there was a meeting in the Northeast Valley, CD7, and I know you made a presentation there. And it started out very contentious with the residents there, and it was standing room only, because there were going to be the installations, the solar installations, on open space,
right,
rather than on commercial areas.
Right.
And the stakeholders were objecting to that, and so there was a meeting. After that meeting, as I remember, the then city councilman wrote some legislation that was passed that when there was going to be these installations, the large facilities, that communities had to have input into that. So you mentioned about lessons learned and communities, significant outreach with stakeholders. So if you could fill me in on, since that time, how have you had significant outreach with stakeholders, and how are you dealing with communities when you plan these facilities?
Yeah, so thank you for reminding everybody about that significant challenge that we had. And the result of that was a planning code interpretation that essentially said feed-in tariff was not allowed unless there was a conditional use permit. And so what we did is we applied, LADWP applied for a conditional use permit for everything that was on rooftop that was not in a residential zone. So everything outside of that, such as those planned projects in Council District 7, they would have to go through the conditional use process themselves, right? And so they would have to do community outreach for that.
Did they do that?
There has actually only been, to my knowledge, one project that has gone through that process, and that was the project at the City of Los Angeles Rec and Parks. All of the ground mount projects that were located out in Council District 7 have since withdrawn. So those are no longer in process, those are no longer in the program, and we since changed the program to prioritize rooftop, and anything that would be located in a residential neighborhood would absolutely have to go through the conditional use public process.
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to know, is what happened to that, because I know that there were a lot of lush green rolling hills there and open space, and that's why people live there, and it's really horse country.
Right.
And people were objecting to that and the constant hum that they heard,
right,
and the use of that space. So I wanted to know what had happened to those proposals.
Yeah, they're currently not in the program, and if they did reapply, they would have to go through the conditional use process, and they would have to engage the community that they affected.
All right, so then you said that it was the city planning department now is kind of in.
Correct, yeah, so as a result of that, and I think we were looked to address the challenge, and so we did some outreach. We were limited a little bit by the legislation that required a FIT program, in that we could not say which type of renewables could participate, including whether it was on a rooftop or on the ground. And so after those outreach meetings and after discussions with a lot of stakeholders here in the city, there was a zoning interpretation by the planning department that did state that all feed-in tariff would need to do a conditional use permit. And so that's sort of the challenge that we had to meet. That really put a big pause on the entire program until LADWP applied for a conditional use permit for all rooftop and all projects outside of residential neighborhoods. So again, that's the sort of 1-year moratorium that we effectively had.
So rooftops, but what about the ground installation, similar to what was planned in CD7?
We did not apply to have those included in our conditional use permit precisely because we felt like those projects needed to have community input, and especially because what that does is it precludes a dual use for that parcel, and there were proposals for doing it in residential neighborhoods. So they can still propose those, but they would have to go through that robust outreach process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Vasquez.
Yes, I like the approach of the distributed generation that the general manager explained. I agree that we need a much more comprehensive approach and a combine of our different portfolio. I also feel like it's very exciting to hear that this is the first feed-in tariff program in the country, and I think LA needs to continue leading the charts on solar energy in the country, especially because we're in Southern California and we have so much sunshine, so it only feels right for us to utilize that. And in terms of the comments from Mr. Picot on the ratepayer, I totally agree. I also feel that our ratepayers have so much more other expenses when there is not renewables and when we utilize fossil fuel, especially because of the pollution, and especially here in LA when we deal with so much pollution. So I think that we need to continue leading the charts on solar as we also meet state mandates, which is something that you didn't really talk about, but I know that we have certain mandates that we need to fulfill in terms of solar energy. So I think we're moving towards the right direction. And I feel like this program has come so far from when we started. And I understand that the pricing is per se not the most favorable, but I think that is the most attractive to get the program going. So would you talk a little bit more about how are we meeting state mandates and other mandates with this program?
Yeah, so I might be off a little bit on the year, but pre-2013, there was a state requirement that we offer a feed-in tariff program. That was a 75 megawatt requirement for LA. And so after extensive outreach with different communities, stakeholders, we proposed a 150 megawatt program. And so that's the genesis of the feed-in tariff program.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think that's it for 6A. Before we get to 6B, I wanted to, council, we need a motion for a deferral of an agenda item. I didn't want to keep people here who are waiting for something.
Certainly, there might actually be a couple items that we need to defer for quorum issues or for other reasons, so Barbara can identify certain items that she has. I know the agenda is one of those items.
Agenda 19, dealing with the LAUSD issues, we're going to defer that. Commissioner Barad had some comments. I think they're going to try to get resolved, but Commissioner Noonan is sick or was unable to make it, and I think that out of deference to her, we will defer that.
So you can bring a motion to defer those two items.
Yeah, number 11, which is the minutes, since we don't have the people who were, here at that last meeting.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
One moment, and number 35 too.
And number
Staff would like to defer 35.
Which one is 35, Dave? The LiDAR?
Yes.
My favorite.
Excuse me, a point of information. Are we voting to defer 19 without any discussion or recommendations.
We're going to have a discussion at the next board meeting that it's considered.
Okay.
So,
So we're not going to discuss it at all.
That is up to you if you want.
No.
My understanding is that we were going to defer it.
Yeah.
But if,
Well, I think there are some questions that I have that I think we could work on with the school district between now and then.
well, I think it might be helpful if staff actually met with you.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
So why
Yeah.
don't we start there?
Okay.
And rather than reading the
Okay.
list of questions off
Yeah.
and.
That was my
Yeah.
recommendation.
So
Okay.
If
Yes.
staff could, who's working on that, possibly follow up with Commissioner Barad and Commissioner Noonan to make sure that their questions are answered before the next meeting. That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Okay. Is it, so for, it's items 11, 19, and 35, is there a motion to defer those?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And if
Okay.
I did want to say, and please, City Attorney, let me know, we have item 29, which would be the approval of the presentation that you just heard on 6A. I think they can take that either right now, or they can defer that till later this afternoon. Is that correct?
certainly, you can take the item on the presentation that there's a voting item related to the presentation that was just given. So if you like, you can take that out of order and
Yeah.
vote on it now.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that because looks like a pretty big agenda. We don't know what's going to happen before or after.
Certainly. So that
Okay.
is item 29.
Okay, so for item 29, Joe, Council, you said we could take this out of order?
Yes, just want to make sure, Barbara, there are no common cards with respect to 29.
No cards for 29.
Okay, so item 29, Power Feed-in Tariff Program Guidelines Modification for the 2017 Capacity Reoffer. Is there a motion to approve it?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Okay. So 6B,
And I do have 2 speaker cards for 6B. Did you want to do the public speakers first?
yes.
Okay, the first speaker is Angela Mazanos. Am I pronouncing that right?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Angela Johnson-Mazzaros. I am with Earth Justice. I'm really pleased to be here this morning, and I want to welcome again Commissioner Vasquez to the dais. It's exciting to see you up there. I'm looking forward to working with you. I want to ask a question, and I want to make a statement. In order to do this, I'd like to direct your attention to slide number 34 in your packet about, the slide is titled Power Revenue Fund, Power Infrastructure and Repowering. You'll note on this slide that Scattergood is being proposed with a $50 million line item. There are one other power plant that's listed on here, Haynes, in addition to repowering other, a broad category. And so I have a question. I would like to understand why there's so much funding for repowering included in the budget because of 2 things. First, at this meeting last week, there was a conversation about whether or not there were significant expenditures in the budget for Scattergood, and staff said there were not. $50 million, however, is a pretty significant expenditure. It's not CapEx, which was the question as I understood it, but that's because the power plant isn't being built right now. But this $50 million expenditure, we should make no mistake, allows this project to move forward completely on schedule and on task as they undertake the environmental analysis, as they get the air permit, as they have public hearings on a CEQA document, as they do everything that needs to happen in order for the proposed date of January 2019 for a scattergood project EIR to come to this commission for approval. So while it's not a significant CapEx expenditure, it certainly does move this project forward. So the issue here is that this utility is moving forward with rebuilding scattergoods units number 1 and 2 without clarifying its need or considering any of its alternatives. Staff has steadfastly claimed that the project is needed to address the once-through cooling requirement. But I'd like to point out, as I have in the past, that an acceptable alternative for addressing once-through cooling compliance is to not repower scattergood at all.
Could you wrap up your remarks, please? Your time is up.
Yes. Staff hasn't clearly set out an energy need, nor have they provided any established information or data in order to prove that only scattergood could meet whatever need there is. We believe fundamentally that LADWP should let clean energy compete for gas at scattergood. So we're requesting that the commission require staff to issue an RFI that's based on specific energy services so that we can allow businesses to bid in to meet the city's needs. Allowing such a competitive process will ensure that ratepayers get the least cost, best fit alternative, and we can meet energy needs, and if we can meet energy needs with clean energy, we'll have that information in front of us, and we can move forward and act on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Evan Gillespie.
Hi, good morning. I had a question about the budget for coal. On one of the slides, the department notes that the budget for nuclear and coal fell by about $100 million from last year to this year. And we're assuming that that has related to coal, but it'd be helpful to clarify how much of that is nuclear power and how much of that is coal costs coming down. If it is for coal, I just had a couple questions that would be helpful to clarify from staff or better understand. One, just the notion that we're spending less money on coal is great. It's great for the environment. It's also great for customers who are spending less money on polluting resources. And the department's clearly investing in lower cost energy than coal. And in 2017, that's a great thing. The question is, when it comes to the coal, how much of that is just because we stopped taking power from Navajo Generating Station? How much of that is related to the Intermountain Power Project and reductions of use of coal at that site? So we'd love to know kind of what's going on with IPP. And it's been a while since the commission has had a hearing or gotten an update, I think, on what the status is of the Intermountain Power Project and the plans to retire it. It'd be really helpful to have a conversation about that in the next several months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last speaker for item 6B.
Comment, that's the last one,
Yes.
Barbara? Ratepayer advocate, comments on 6B?
I'll have them after the presentation, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Neil Guglielmo with the FSO. I'll be joining the presentation by the representatives here from Water System and Power System, as well as the Budget Office Manager, Marion Ans. So in the presentation, go ahead. All right, thank you. We're going to provide a brief overview in the status. Obviously, we came to this board back in March on the preliminary budget, and there's been a few changes, some that have occurred since the prelim budget to now the final budget for the coming fiscal year 17-18, which will begin July 1st. We also have some key financial summaries for both water system, power system, some project highlights, as well as expenditures, information on labor, non-labor, and changes in proposed staffing for the coming fiscal year. So in terms of the overview, I think the main area we'd like to highlight here is that as we work with each of the organizations on the annual budget, we're doing that in the context of the approved rate plan. And the focus is on trying to put forward a budget that meets the critical operational goals and strategic goals of the department, while also mitigating the impact on customer rates and trying to live within what was approved in the rate plan. For the power system, that is true. We're actually well within the amounts that were suggested and shared with our ratepayers in the rate plan. However, for the water system, due to a couple of items, the actual average annual rate adjustment over the 5-year rate period is going to be slightly higher. You can see there it's that 5.9% as opposed to 5.3%. The items that have led to that essentially are the delays in the putting forward the securitization, getting that approved, as well as greater than expected conservation. Working through the rate action and at direction of the mayor and the city council, the department's worked very hard to implement as much conservation as possible, working with our customers, both residential and commercial. And we saw the response far and exceed even our expectations, I think, in terms of the conservation that was realized. So in order to recover sufficiently for our fixed cost requirements, that has an impact. So the cumulative there is that change from that 5.3% that we shared with the ratepayers and the rate action to roughly 5.9%. So just something I wanted to point out. And also the continued investment that's being made in the remediation of the billing and collection system and improvements that are being done strategically in the department for customer service enhancements. So in terms of the budget development status, we are required by the charter to submit a preliminary budget by the end of March of each fiscal year, and also to submit a final budget for your consideration by the end of May of each fiscal year. And once board takes an action to approve, then we transmit those documents through the mayor and the city council for their review. So turning to the next page, looking at the highlighted changes from the preliminary budget. On the water revenue fund side, the capital budget has decreased by approximately $79 million, really primarily due to timing of various projects, as well as a slight change on the O&M side. So the more significant, I think, there is the capital. And what we've seen the past few fiscal years is that we have been underspending both on the water side and the power side in capital, and we've really worked hard with the operational organizations to try and look at those budgets and see what is achievable for the coming fiscal year. So we believe the amounts that are being proposed in the final budget actually reflect the work that can be achieved. The other change I would say is purchase water. We have some slides coming up later in the presentation, but we have had record snowfall and rain in the Eastern Sierras, and it is a great source of water for our customers, and there's direct benefits. Having those pass-through adjustment factors, we're going to see reductions in purchased water, which we in turn pass on to our customers. And in one of your board actions a month or so ago, we approved the rates claimed for July 1st, and in that we have a reduction of about $2 or so a month on the typical customer monthly bill. For the Power Revenue Fund, you'll see there a larger decrease in the capital budget for the coming fiscal year. Again, that's been working with the organizations and budgeting as we think we can achieve that level of spend, and slight changes on the O&M. The primarily reductions on the capital budget were attributed to delays in scattered repowering units 1 and 2. Essentially, the budget's $51 million proposed for next year as opposed to $180 million that was proposed initially. And then reestimates of power system reliability program spending. For fuel and purchase power, you can see that that's decreased by approximately $91 million, again, primarily due to lower than expected natural gas pricing, reduced purchase of coal, nuclear, and other non-renewables. So turning to the Power Revenue Fund Key Expenditure Plan summary, you'll see there essentially the first column is that 15-16, last completed fiscal year. The approved for the current fiscal year, 16-17, our re-estimates in terms of where we expect we will be by the end of this current fiscal year, and then proposed final budget for the coming fiscal year of 17-18. You'll see the reductions there in the non-renewables, the changes in renewables, CO2 emission expense. O&M, while it is an increase, we've been working really hard with the organizations to try and keep O&M expenses down. It has a greater impact in terms of customer bills. The depreciation as well as our debt service. Obviously, our debt service is going up as we increase that capital program spending. Then the change in the revenue requirement. So moving on to the financial planning categories. The coming slides, essentially you'll see there, reflect the changes at a high level for the power system reliability program, the infrastructure and repowering, operating support, energy efficiency, and renewable portfolio standards. I'm going to turn over to Marianne Ans. Oh, sorry. I'm going to turn over to Andy, actually, to go through the project system highlights. And once we've gone through that, we'll go into the capital expenditures program trends.
Thank you, Neil. So I just want to highlight a little bit of what we've done and what the plan is going forward. So when we look at our pole replacement, our cable replacement, our PSRP goals, currently we're on schedule for this fiscal year to meet our goals for poles, cross arms, transformer upgrades. We're on schedule to meet those. We're a little off schedule on cable replacements due to the fact that we're upgrading some more cable that's outside of that, of the PSRP, our ground return. We're using those same crews. So we're on target for mileage, but that's on a different job. Our goals for next year, we're increasing our pole replacement, our cross-arm replacement goals next year as we go forward. You know, our new business and system jobs, you know, if you look for next year, that's a $74 million. And this is, you know, there's more building going on in LA than we've seen in recent years, which is a great thing. But that's a huge demand on our resources. And it's a balance each day for the crews who go out and replace poles and cross arms. Also are the same crews that go out and set a pole for a new business to energize a new customer and bring them into our load. So we're continuing to do that with the, you know, we have work at LAX, then all the new metro expansion for Measure M coming up, the Port of LA, and just all of the construction going on. It's at a rapid pace. Next year for Scattergood, we have $50 million, and that is to complete the remaining 50% of the Unit 3 demolition that was done in site preparation for a new energy source there for at the Scattergood facility. So we're going to continue to demolish Unit 3 and get that site ready for what we do in the future. Also, we have a 10-year project to replace 10 of our 138 kV underground transmission lines. And we're in the process of doing 2 of those a year, and this will increase our capacity by 20%. It'll help our reliability because we're pulling through and putting less splices in the line. And each time you splice a line, then that adds the ability for failure. So we're reducing the number of splices by 40%, and this will help increase our reliability. Sylmar Converter Station, where our Pacific Intertie comes in, which helps us to bring 3,100 megawatts of renewables in from the north. We're replacing our AC and DC harmonic filters, which are at the end of their lifespan. So this is a $179 million total project, of which the Department of Water and Power is responsible for 40%, and our partners contribute 60%. So for 17-18 fiscal year, our cost is $23 million. And then substation automation, it's been a plan that we've worked since 2002 to upgrade our 200 stations so that we have better monitoring, better reliability, we can take action quicker, we have better data. So it will allow us, if we have an issue on a circuit, in some cases now we have to drop either a whole bus in a station or a whole bank in a station in order to de-energize a line for an emergency. This will allow us to drop feeders in all of our stations one at a time and limit the impact to our customers. Lastly, electric vehicle infrastructure. Our IRP showed us that the electric transportation industry was key for our GHG reductions. A study earlier this year showed that some of the barriers to electric vehicle purchases by car buyers, some of it was the lack of charging stations, a good portion. Some of it was the range, not having enough chargers to get from here to the next charging station. What was interesting is 60% of 2,500 people that were surveyed were unaware that electric vehicles existed, which was surprising. So our goal includes robustly increasing the number of charging stations we install, and public charging stations, including more chargers and within the city infrastructure, from 500 to 3,775 chargers by 2021, both city parking lots as well as curbside. Also, the heavy-duty truck industry, with the ports trying to electrify, this will allow for more usage there, electronic dash buses. The main thing, too, is our education and outreach. That number of just 2,500 people that didn't know electric vehicles, when 60% of that, when you take that by a whole of all the people in Los Angeles, that's probably a huge number. So outreach is the key to getting that information out, letting them know there's rebates for chargers, right? And there's public charging stations all over the city, and that almost everywhere we go, we will have the ability to charge, and that will take care of some of that fuel range concern. So.
Neil. I did want to say with the electric vehicle charging, while that's included in the budget, we will bring that item. That item would come back to you for a more comprehensive discussion before we just move forward and do everything. But the money is in the budget to start looking at different variations of increasing the charging stations, increasing outreach, and everything. But we will bring that back to the board for a more detailed discussion in the future.
Is it possible that we could have more charging stations before 2021?
Yeah, the intent would be to be significantly ramping up on an annual basis what we're doing to put in charging stations or encourage charging stations to be constructed for the entire 5 years, not just at the end of 5 years.
And that's citywide?
Yes, that would be citywide.
And I guess if this item is going to come back, we can discuss further. I'm curious about who did we survey that doesn't know that there's EV cars?
And that's kind of the way that our budget has to. We ask for the funding right now, but and this is true for most capital projects or most big programs. And then throughout the year, the funding is now there and approved, and then we'll discuss in all the detail of actually implementing or approving a project or a program. So cash is in the budget, and then we'll come back at a later date and go through the kind of entire program process, background, everything.
Including where these EVs will be allocated and how equitable it is and stuff.
Certainly, yes.
And that wasn't our survey, that was done by Electrek.
And this is actually in our equity metrics too. We do have an equity metric on the EV charging program. So we'll be coming back, I think, at a subsequent board meeting for the upcoming year's metrics, the fiscal year 17-18 metrics, both the rates metrics and equity metrics. So that's another area where we can touch upon the EV program.
Excellent.
I just had one question for you, Andy. The 22 cents, is that over a year, over a month, or over a billing period?
That would be
associated with the 10 times the increase of 10 times on the electric vehicle infrastructure.
So I can take that. In terms of the estimated monthly bill impact for the 10 times program, that was calculated based on a single-family residential customer using approximately 500 kilowatt hours a month. The change, that impact of 22 cents would be on the monthly bill. So it would be 22 cents of an increase on the monthly bill.
That's per month or per bill?
Per month.
So it's not per 2 months?
I'm sorry. It's that we looked at it. Obviously, we do a bi-monthly bill cycle, but we looked at a monthly bill basis.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, Neil.
No problem.
Appreciate it very much.
So moving on, I'm going to have Marianne Ann's cover the next few slides. We're going to show you some highlights of the changes in the budget, looking at the capital, the O&M, and the fuel and purchase power.
So for the Power Revenue Fund, the capital expenditures trend, you see here 15-16, a gradual increase. If you look at the 15-16 actuals of 1173 to the current year estimate of 16-17 of 1224, and the proposed 17-18 of 1393. And focusing on the 16-17 estimate to the proposed, it's an increase of $169 million, with the largest contributors being the Power System Reliability Program of $102 million, followed by operating support of $52 million, after which energy efficiency of $31 million approximately. The O&M, you see relatively flat for 15-16, $968 million. For 16-17, the estimate of 10-18, and the proposed 17-18 of 10-60. Comparing again the 16-17 estimate to the proposed, this reflects an increase of approximately $42 million, with the largest contributing factor, the program, I should say, the Power System Reliability Program of $68 million. The largest of which is distribution at the subfunctional level, as well as substation and transmission, followed by the RPS of $10 million. For the fuel and purchase power trend, comparing the 16-17 estimate to the 17-18 proposed, this reflects an increase of $24 million, with the largest contributor from the renewables, primarily for solar, wind, and geothermal, approximately $84 million. When combining the non-renewables of coal, nuclear, natural gas, and the other non-renewables comprised of the Apex, the Hoover, and purchase transmission, that reflects approximately a $59 million reduction of $957 to $898. With that, I'll turn it over back to Neil for the key expenditure plan.
Thank you, Marianne. So for the Water Revenue Fund, the critical financial items we have here, the operating expenses, you can see purchased water has come substantially down from a high of $262 in fiscal year 15-16 to what's been proposed for next year of $114 million. The O&M remains relatively flat, some slight increases there, but again, I think Power's done a good job, and so has Water, of really controlling those costs, and depreciation on the assets. Debt service is increasing as we continue to make those necessary investments in our capital program, and you can see the impact in terms of the revenue requirement, roughly at that $1.15 billion. Moving to the Water Revenue Fund financial category summary, as you're going to see in the next few slides, we're going to go through the project highlights and such, but when we get to the slides that Marianne will be covering on the water, we're going to be looking at the major changes, the level of water quality, water infrastructure, water supply, Owens Valley regulatory compliance, operating support. I'm going to turn it over now to Anselmo to go over the project highlights for the water system.
Good morning, Commissioners. Anselmo Collins, Director of Water Operations. I'm going to be talking about a couple of highlights projects that we're working on for this coming fiscal year. The first one you see there is our mainline replacement program, where our target is to replace 215,000 linear feet of mainline. That's actually up from our goal for this current year. The goal is 184,000 feet, and I'm happy to report that we will be meeting that goal of 184,000 feet replaced. So that's the $93 million you see there. Also, part of the installation also involves the installation of earthquake-resistant ductile iron pipe, which we have found to be very effective when we have seismic activity. So we have been installing this pipe now for a couple of years, and we'll continue to install earthquake-resistant pipe in our system. The second project that you see there is the Foothill Trunk Line, which is basically the installation of 1,600 linear feet of 54-inch pipe. This is to replace pipe that was installed back in the 30s that was 24 and 36 inches in diameter, and is being replaced now with a much larger welded steel pipe. That project, I would say we're about 25% completed with it already, and our expectation is that we are going to continue working on this project for the next fiscal year. Thirdly, we have the river supply conduit. This is units 5 and 6. there are a total of 7 units in what we call the RSC projects. RSC 5 and 6 is the northernmost portion of the project. This starts over in the North Hollywood area, coming out of our North Hollywood pump station sump, and takes the water all the way down to where our headworks reservoir is. In this project, what we're doing is we are replacing 15,800 feet of pipe with 78-inch diameter pipe. Some of the reasons and the highlights of why we're doing this project is, first of all, it's going to improve the reliability of our system now that we have taken certain reservoirs out of service for compliance with water quality regulations. What this allows us to do is to be able to move water around the city a lot easier because I have more transmission capacity in our system. Also, it improves the pressure, the water pressure that we have in the system. The RSC has been notorious for having a low pressure, and this new pipeline not only is larger, but is being installed much deeper, and that's what creates the additional pressure that we will have at all times in this particular water pipe. And also, we are mitigating some issues that we have with air entrainment. So it really does accomplish several goals that we have. The main thing is it allows us to comply with water quality regulations and to provide operational flexibility in the system. Next slide. The first one here that we have is the Los Angeles Aqueduct. As you have heard us report many times before, this is a banner year when it comes to runoff. We're expecting anywhere between 800 and 900,000 acre feet of runoff, which means that we are going to be and are currently flowing a full aqueduct pretty much the entire year, something that really hasn't happened in a long time. For example, this past year, around 70% or 75% of the water that we served our customers was purchased water from Metropolitan. So we are going to be significantly reducing the amount of water that we purchase from Metropolitan and using our own aqueduct water. Part of this also, what you see under LA Aqueduct, are capital improvements that we are making to our system on a yearly basis. We have a program to replace a portion of the top of the box conduit portions of the aqueduct. That's what we call a top removal. We also have a project to make improvements to the spillway at Grant Lake, which is one of their northernmost reservoirs on the aqueduct system, as well as the work that we're doing over in Owens Lake with phases 9 and 10, which are slated to be completed later this calendar year. And then we're going to be moving into what we call the master project, which is implementing water-saving projects to be able to reduce the amount of water we use in Owens Lake while maintaining our commitment to air quality and also habitat, restoration or habitat, suitability not being affected. The next project is our Tujunga Spreading Grounds Enhancement Project. This is a project that actually started in 2016. And what we're doing is that we are increasing the capacity to be able to spread and percolate water at the Tujunga Spreading Grounds. We are looking at almost doubling the capacity. We are reducing the number of basins by consolidating them, but we're also making them much deeper. So we will be able to actually collect more water at the spreading grounds and percolate more into our aquifer in this Tujunga Spreading Grounds area. And the last one that we have here is our water recycling. And what this is related to our groundwater replenishment. As you know, the water system has made a commitment to recharging a groundwater basin using recycled water. Our goal is to be able to spread up to 30,000 acre feet a year. What we're planning on doing this coming year is two things. One, there are some improvements that need to be made over at the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant, which is where the water will be recycled and then pumped to the groundwater basins. And the other work we're doing this coming year is improvements to the Hansen Spreading Grounds, which is where some of the water from the Tillman plant will be pumped to for purposes of recharging the groundwater basin. And I'll turn it back to Neil now.
Okay, so I'm going to have Marianne walk through the capital expenditure slide.
So for the water capital expenditures trend, you see the 15-16, $700 million compared to the 16-17 estimate of 814. That's roughly $114 million increase, gradually increasing to the 17-18 proposed of 861. When comparing the current year estimate to the 17-18 proposed, it reflects an increase of $47 million. The largest contributing program is the water supply of $57 million, comprised of the recycled water and water conservation, followed by the infrastructure of $43 million. The O&M expenditures trend, you see for 15-16, again, a gradual increase. The actuals of $445 million compared to the 16-17 proposed, as current estimate of $458, a $13 million increase, followed by the 17-18 proposed of $478. In comparing the 16-17 estimate to the final 17-18 proposed, it reflects a $20 million increase, largely for water supply of $11 million, for groundwater and water conservation, largely, followed by operating support of approximately $7.8 million. Moving on to the purchased water trend, comparing the 16-17 estimate to the 17-18 proposed, it's a decrease by $91 million from $205 million to the $114 million that Neil earlier mentioned. This is over by 200% of the annual runoff. With that, I'll turn it back over to Neil to cover the Eastern Sierras precipitation slide.
So as has been described earlier, you can see the heavy red line reflects the current year, the level of precipitation and snowpack in the Owens Valley. You can contrast that to the 14-15, which was our driest year, which is that kind of paltry line at the very, very bottom. I think that's like a burgundy color, perhaps. And you can see a significant difference. And you compare it to our wettest year, which was back in the early 80s, which is that green line. And essentially, we've come out substantially ahead. I know there's been kind of a drop-off more recently. This is not the most recent report from Water System.
Correct.
But I'm not sure if Anselmo, you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, this particular graph you see here was as of April 25th. And since then, you can see a bit of a drop-off. But I think the main message is that we had a almost record-setting year. We had over 200% of normal when it comes to snowfall. So what it means really to us is that we have an awful lot of water that we're going to be able to use from our own aqueduct here in Los Angeles. And my staff has been working diligently in managing the excessive runoff for the last several months, where we are able to, where possible, spread water up in the Owens Valley to allow us to recharge the groundwater in those areas. But also what it allows us to do is basically store the water in probably what is the largest reservoir, which is the groundwater over there. And it minimizes the amount of water that's going to come down and eventually make it to Owens Lake, which is obviously the concern that we've shared with the board before, that we're trying to minimize any damage. So I think from a water supply perspective, it's a really good year for us. Our job now is basically managing all that water to make sure that we can use it to its fullest beneficial use.
Can I interrupt you just for a minute on that point? Are you able to predict how long we're going to be having all this water in the aqueduct, using the runoff and so on? Because you said now we're importing less water and we're using our own water.
Correct.
What kind of prediction do you see for the future?
Well, it's kind of hard to predict the future, but I could say that based on the snowpack that we had this year, my expectation is that I will be able to bring a full aqueduct of water all the way to a lake, all the way at least till March of next year. And that depends also what happens during the next winter season. But our expectation is that a significant portion of all the supply in Los Angeles will be coming from our own aqueduct. We're going to buy a very small portion of water from Metropolitan this year. For example, last year we purchased over 350,000 acre-feet of water from Metropolitan. My expectation is that we're going to be somewhere in the 50 to 60,000 acre-feet. All that difference is water that's going to be coming from our own aqueduct.
Right, so if you're looking at March of next year, and we're about to go into summer,
correct,
and we're still asking people to conserve.
Yes. I think the message is that we want to continue to conserve as much as we can. Having one good winter season does not guarantee, I guess, that we're going to have many more of these.
Yes.
Certainly, it's been a great year for us to be able to recharge our groundwater basin, not just here, but also in the Owens Valley. But I think the message is that we want to make sure that we use the water that we do have responsibly so that we can make it last even longer. So not sure what's going to happen next winter, but if we happen to have another wet year, then we'll be in great shape. But for now, the message is still that we need to be very diligent in conserving water and using water wisely.
So I think we still need to get that message out.
Yes, yes, and we have continued to do so as much as we can.
Right, because I think the conventional wisdom is, well, now that we have that snowpack and we have all that water, now we can really water more often in our lawns and whatever. And
Correct. Yes, that's a very good point.
okay.
So we're going to turn to, I think this actually dovetails very well. The next slide is really to look at increased investment in stormwater and groundwater recharge and water storage. And what I would add is that, to Anselmo's point, we need to continue the education outreach for our customers. As we look at the financial modeling, we really don't expect the customers to increase their consumption very much on the water side right now. What we're seeing is that consumption is still rather flat or down. So, through the conservation efforts that have been made, a lot of that is some structural changes in terms of, taking out turf, putting in drought-tolerant landscaping. Behavior has changed amongst some of our customers too. And while that's important, it's also important to develop those local sources of water supply and really focus in those areas. So, we were asked to come back and look at the budget in the context of, for stormwater, for example, what is being done. If you look at the chart, you'll see the blue line that kind of horizontally goes across towards the bottom is the current level of spending that we've been seeing, or the 5-year historical investment. And if you look at the plan column, which is kind of that middle section, there's 3 columns there, a blue, a reddish-orange, and a green. The blue reflects the 17-18 fiscal year investments. The red is that 18-19 investment, and that green is the investments we've made in 19-20. And so you can see there the stepped increase in investments that would be made as part of the current budgeting planning that's been done by the water system. The 2 times average and 3 times average are that first and second series of columns to the left of the chart. And then if we were to take that middle section of the plan and then multiply it 2 times or 3 times, that's those next columns over further to the right in the chart. So, from the budget perspective, we believe that the plan as it's currently in the budget does triple the investment over the next 3 years in terms of stormwater. And there's a lot of efforts being made by the water system in that regard. I'll turn it over to Anselmo.
Yes, so as you are probably aware, we did do a stormwater capture master plan. And in that master plan, what we identified was opportunities for us to be able to increase the amount of water we capture. The plan has a more aggressive, posture, which says that we could increase by 114,000 acre-feet. A more conservative number is around 68,000. So between 68,000 and 114, that is what the stormwater master plan had identified that we could potentially do. I think the key really is that if we decided that wanted to increase how fast we work on these projects, there are a couple of challenges that we wanted to point out. One is that obviously we do most of these projects with other agencies that are partners, and that it could have some constraints on their side that could limit our ability to get all the projects done, such as the LA County, LA San, Bureau of Engineering, Army Corps. These could be financial constraints, but it could also be resource constraints since we work with them hand in hand. Now, one of the things that we are doing beyond just looking here in the LA Basin is, as a result of this year and seeing how much water we have to move along the aqueduct, my staff is actually looking at opportunities to be able to increase the amount of stormwater capture beyond LA. Looking, for example, in the Antelope Valley, the Rose Valley, and the Indios Wells location, where we'll be able to actually spread that water before it gets to Los Angeles, and then bring it in as we need to. So this effort just started, but we are going to be looking at this a lot more carefully. And the idea would be that we could store also water in those aquifers and be able to then pump it back into our aqueduct system and bring it into Los Angeles when need be.
So moving on to the.
Excuse me,
sure,
Neil.
certainly.
Can you go this graph is? I just want to understand this. You have the 2 times the plan is. So what's the bottom line in terms of what an average customer would have to pay if we doubled or tripled our stormwater capture budget?
So for a single-family residential customer, that our typical now is consuming roughly 10 HCF or a little below 10 HCF on a monthly basis. You can see there the plan, the cost of the current planned, or I should say budgeted, levels of investments in stormwater. The 3-year average is that 35 cents a month. The 5-year is roughly at 46 cents a month. So that's that center section. If you look to the right, the 2 times the plan would be an increase, obviously, in that monthly customer bill. So it'd go, the investment cost associated with stormwater would go from that 35 cents to roughly 70 cents over a 3-year average versus, say, a 93 over a 5-year average. And then the 3 times would be the next level up. If you look at it just based on how we have been spending over the last few fiscal years, and look at that 2 times the average level of spend, that's roughly that 36 cents or 43 cents versus a 3 or 5-year bill impact. And then the 3 times average is that 54 cents versus 65 cents. So of the customer monthly bill right now, that 35 represents the 3-year average monthly bill impact for the current budget plan. And once we would hit year 5 of the rate action, which would be fiscal year 1920, that represents roughly 46 cents of a monthly customer bill.
So just on the 2 times the plan set of bar graphs, that means the average customer would be spending 70 cents more per month or per billing cycle?
It would actually be
or
doubling
35 cents?
It's right, 35 cents more. Correct.
The difference.
That'd be the monthly bill impact.
Okay, so and then it would be the difference between 93 and 47 cents.
Correct.
For the and that's per month.
Yeah, this is based on a typical single-family residential customer monthly bill. Again, that's that 10 HCF basis. So it'd be roughly 35 cents a month over a 3-year average, or 46 cents a month if you look at it over a 5-year average over the entire rate period.
And it would probably be borne a lot more by single family because most multifamily units don't have water meters, right? I mean, they'd be borne by the landlord, the owner of the multifamily.
The property owner.
The property owner, but not necessarily by the tenants.
And we see our consumption roughly is that 2/3 is our residential customer class, and then the remaining roughly 1/3 is that commercial, industrial, governmental customer class in terms of the water consumption.
I noticed that you don't have the Los Angeles Regional Water Board on agencies. We're working closely with them, I assume, on some of these ideas and meeting the mayor's goal of reducing our imported water amounts and increasing our resilience by having more of these areas located in basin. So I assume that we're working closely with the Regional Water Board.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So we're going to move to the, again, looking at that typical residential customer and their monthly consumption. If you look to the far left of the chart, you'll see fiscal year 06-07, that 15.83 HCF per month. Our sales were roughly 270 million HCF in that fiscal year. You contrast it to what we saw during the rate period where we were going through the rate action, developing that. We were looking in, say, 13, 14 customers consuming roughly 12 HCF a month. And a lot of our outreach was based on that typical level consumption. To what we're seeing right now, where the customers are actually dipping below the 10 HCF per month at 9.6, and the sales are roughly 200 million HCF. So we've seen dramatic reductions, about a 26-27% reduction in overall consumption over the last 10 years or so. And I don't believe we're going to see much of a bump. Sometimes in the past we'll see consumption decrease and it'll start to come back up if we start to get more rain or things like that. We're not seeing that yet. We'll continue to monitor with water system staff. But this is kind of a change for us in how we've looked at typical residential customer consumption. That 10 now, 15 to 10 and now to, from 15 to 12 to now to 10 is pretty substantial. So if you turn to the next page and look at what that means.
Neil, before you
Certainly.
go on, is that because people were not using their sprinklers, or what do you count this?
So this is looking at the overall consumption by our customers. It's a number of factors. It would be reduced usage of, say, sprinklers, fewer days of watering, fewer minutes of watering. It's the low, the shower heads
Yes.
that have reduced the flow. It's more efficient toilets. For our schools, it's more efficient faucets, urinals, toilets. It's, I think I would say, smarter irrigation practices. We've been working a lot with Recreation and Parks for a number of years and continue to work with them. And they're one of our largest customers when it comes to irrigation. And so it's a number of things. We've been working with the customers to educate them, give them kinds of tools and options in terms of how they can reduce their consumption and frankly, control their bill, too.
The one thing I would add, I think also part of it is the very successful lawn replacement program that we've had.
The what?
The lawn replacement, the cash for grass, where the turf rebate, where we basically replaced around 48 million square feet of grass.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we lead the state in when it comes to lawn replacement with drought-tolerant materials. So I think that's had a huge impact. As we know, around half of the water that we use at home is being used outside for irrigation. So by having such a successful program, I think we've been able to also reduce demand significantly at the homes by not having as much grass to irrigate.
So this is a combination, really, of...
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Are you able to extrapolate another one of our largest customers, and that's LAUSD, to see what has their practice been in use of water, and have they conserved, or is it still the same? I mean, when they were here, they said they use most of it for irrigation.
So what I could add is that within the water conservation staff efforts, continue to work with LAUSD. They have done a good job of replacing their faucets, sinks, the low-flow toilets, and their urinals. They've really gone through most of the schools, I would say, at this point, and have done those kinds of replacements, which helps reduce their consumption. On the irrigation side, again, trying to help educate them and their gardeners and their caretakers on how they can make some smarter choices for irrigation. We do try and work with the customers where it will work to have more use of recycled water, for example. There's a little bit of that with LAUSD, a lot of it actually with Recreation and Parks. I think it's roughly 90% of the golf courses, for those of us who are golfers, roughly 90% of the golf courses in the city are now using recycled water too. So I think for LAUSD, they still have some steps that can be taken, both frankly on the water side as well as energy efficiency. And the budget we've gone through does reflect those increased investments in energy efficiency, including direct installation of, say, LED lighting for the LAUSD schools. There were some pilots that were completed with LAUSD schools, with 3 schools actually, and they're moving forward with the LED lighting. So as they go through and complete the water efficiency, things we have on our checklist, and the energy efficiency, that will help them control their bill. And this board has really worked closely with LAUSD to authorize expenditures of investments, I would say, of some significant funding to help them in that regard. About $50 million or so over a 3-year period.
Well, when they were here, a few months ago, they were still flushing the water fountains, and the water was going down the drain.
Right.
And I, for one, am not letting them off that hook. So I would like to have some kind of data on that, what they really are doing to conserve. And I don't know if how much they've replaced. Because they say, when I met with them last year, they said it was going to take 5 years and they were going to replace. So, and it's been a year. So how many water faucets have they replaced? What are they doing? They're still flushing that water down the drain. They're not using it, reusing it. So can we get that information from them?
Yes. If I can offer, we, about a year and a half or so ago, maybe not quite that long, we did that $45 million grant to LAUSD. About $13 million was for water conservation, the rest for power conservation. And so we can prepare a report back with what their expenditures are, and that would help to replumb bathrooms and such. On the flushing issue, they've been making big efforts toward replacing fixtures. So I know they're getting very close to being lead-free in their fixtures, which would eliminate the need to flush with their water fountains, and we've been working very closely with them on that as well. So we can get you a report on, because we do have that money that we've offered to help them become more efficient and lower their bills. We can let you know the status of that, as well as other particular reports about water conservation efforts, turf removals, particular lighting programs. They've got some solar efforts and some other things. So we can do a comprehensive report on our interaction and what we've done together and where we're going.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful, and I would just like to see it, real data there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is, this is kind of tangential, but some members of the board, LAUSD, are still saying that they should be paying nothing for water.
Commissioner, I think it's important to note in that fact that the board has a lot of discretion in setting rates, but the fundamental principle for rate setting is set by the California Constitution and requires us to charge the reasonable, in essence, charge the reasonable
Right.
cost of service. And we can't subsidize people. So
Right.
having the LA Unified pay zero would probably be a non-clear picture of a violation of Prop 218.
Yeah, I'm not advocating that, but I know I have spoken to staff and had a conversation with Marty about that I think we need to set the record straight as to what they're paying and why, and let the public know that, and let the board members know that, the LAUSD board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just looking at the consumption and what that means in terms of the typical residential customer's monthly bill,
Yes.
which is our next slide that we have. If you look to the far left, you'll see the typical monthly consumption, which was at roughly 12 HCF back in 14-15. That monthly bill is just below $60 a month. If you look now with the rate action and the increases we've seen, as of January 2017, the typical customer, which is consuming roughly 10 HCF or less, that monthly bill is roughly $61.82. Looking forward to July of 2017, the rates have already been approved with this board. You'll see there's a reduction of roughly $2. A lot of that really is the reduction in purchased water, that passing that savings on to our customers. It does increase in January and July of 2018. Part of that is due to, again, the delay in securitization, which is those rate reduction bonds, and then the decreased levels of consumption while still trying to meet those fixed costs. You'll see that it dips down and it comes back down. By the end of the rate period, we're actually below, or anticipated to be below, where the typical customer monthly bill was in 14-15 before we went into this rate action. So, again, the customers have been conserving. The rates design that we use, the conservation-based rate design, you can see how it works here. Most of our customers don't get out of Tier 1 and Tier 2. So that means that even while we're making significant increased investments in infrastructure and reliability, water quality enhancements, that customer bills remain relatively flat. So that's really the success of the rate design, is just the fact that we're able to kind of really control those monthly bill impacts for our customers while still increasing those investments. And we display it here for water system, but the same is true for the power system as well. So again, I think the rate design has worked well so far. We do have an interim check-in period for the rate action coming up in about a year and a half. We'll be sharing more information as we get to that point with you. So moving on to the staffing plan by system, it's fun little charts. You'll see there the first column shows the current occupancy. This was as of the end of March, roughly that 9790, broken down. The first box is joint system. You have joint system, water system, and then power system. And then looking forward to the 17-18 fiscal year, the proposed funded headcount would be that 10,455, which is a slight increase. Our funded headcount currently is at 10,361. It's an increase of roughly 94 funded headcount coming for the coming fiscal year. You can see the breakdown below, and the table below shows you the labor, overtime, and benefits by system and the total amount there. Then over to the right, we talk about finally changing our APR, authorized position count. So we're looking at increasing the APR roughly 665 positions. The main changes there are various water and power system programs, again, enhancements to customer service, human resources, financial services, corporate safety, project management, a very key function for us, office sustainability, succession planning, increasing the staffing in those areas. And I think what's key is as we look to the next fiscal year, roughly 23% of our staff are going to be eligible to retire. Not that they will retire, but again, with the large workforce that we have significant challenges in terms of passing on that the knowledge and the expertise that's been gained by our mature workforce to those who are coming in behind them. And so in some areas we're staffing up more. We're actually overhiring in certain areas in anticipation of attrition. And we're trying to work on that with each of the systems. We believe the proposed changes in labor for next year will allow us to, again, meet the work requirements we have and transition that workforce while mitigating the impact in terms of loss of skill and loss of expertise. We have a very, I would say, well-trained workforce. We have very dedicated employees in the department. And while we do have a lot of employees that are eligible, we really hope that many of them will continue to stay on past when they're eligible to retire. So I think the budget for next year kind of reflects that and prepares us for the future. If you look at the next slide, we have our labor funding proposed changes. So as has been discussed with the RPA, Dr. Pickle and his staff, we do look at the labor and how that's changed from what was proposed during the rate action to what's being proposed now before you in terms of the final budget proposal. There is an increase in labor, again, mainly to deal with the anticipated attrition and kind of preparing the workforce for that. And we do have offsetting under expenditures or decreases in our non-labor side that more than offset the increases in labor. So there really is no impact to the customer bill, but something that we do want to bring to your board on a regular basis. You understand what's going on with our labor. Okay? And then as you turn, you can see the changes actually in the APR. So we would be going from an APR of roughly 10,015 to an APR of 10,650 for the coming fiscal year, change of roughly 635 position authorities. How that's broken down is the water revenue fund represents roughly 2,134 positions, our water system, approximately 1,474 are joint system positions in support of water system. For the power revenue fund, it's roughly 4,558 power system positions and 2,484 joint system positions. So again, some increases in the APR, trying to build that workforce anticipation of the levels of increased investment in capital and O&M work. We have been underspending in capital. We believe that as we adjust the labor in this way, as well as some of the non-labor changes, it will prepare us to be able to spend and achieve those targets we have set forth as part of the rate action. So lastly, just asking for approval. The two items that are on today's agenda are item 25, which is the Power Revenue Fund budget, and item 26, the Water Revenue Fund budget. Upon board approval, we'll be transmitting the information to the mayor and the city council. And happy to answer any questions that our commissioners have.
Why don't we, does the ratepayer advocate have comments? Why don't we have the ratepayer advocate make comments, and then we'll have the commissioners.
To start, we support approval of the power and water budgets. This budget is the best yet in terms of clarity and process from our perspective, and we think we should move ahead. But there are a couple things you need to be aware of in this budget process. First, this budget is roughly $540 million less than the rate budget, the forecast for the budget in the rate process. But we think it's much more realistic in terms of DWP's ability to achieve these spending levels. Working with DWP, DWP has shown how this underspend flows back to customers through pass-throughs and through reduced debt. The challenge is not spending too much on overhead in this process while the delivery of capital items is slowed down. So that's a challenge. Question is, how do we make this process better in terms of long-term improvements in procurement and in capital programs? And we can address this more in the midterm rate review late next summer.
Is that all?
That's all. We say we recommend approval.
When we voted for the rate hikes, so we had an anticipated budget for infrastructure. Is that, so now I'm a little bit confused that you say that we're not going to be spending as much in capital. So how do?
Sure. So going back to the rate period, part of the challenge was that there was uncertainty as to when or if the rates would finally receive approval. And when the rates were finally approved, it was essentially March of 2016. They went into effect in April of 2016. So there was expenditures on the capital side that weren't being made because there was uncertainty as to what would happen with the rates. It takes time for contracts to be put in place to actually spend that money and to hire staff and then train staff to perform the work. And which has been looked at in the past in the IEA survey, and I think the RPA has commented on this too. It could take a year and a half or perhaps even longer to get certain contracts in place, contracts for power system reliability or contracts with water system to procure materials, supplies, equipment, and then hiring of staff takes time as well. And so what happened is we have a kind of a long ramp-up period to get the expenditures. But what you can see, if we turn back to the slides, on the capital, looking at, for example, we're on water right now. If you turn back to slide 20, the Water Revenue Fund capital expenditures trend, what you can see there is our last completed fiscal year. So last year, we really only had a rate action for about 3 months. The expenditures there were roughly $700 million. The expenditures we have estimated for the current fiscal year is $814 million. So there is an increase of about $114 million in expenditures from last completed fiscal year this year. And then you're going to see a further increase in 17-18. It's a more modest one, going from the 814 to the 861, but it reflects the level of spending that the water system believes they can achieve given the status of contracts, status of crews, equipment, and things of that nature.
Could I jump in?
Sure, absolutely.
In the rate plan, we project a certain amount of capital expenditure that flows through to the rates. If we don't meet that level of capital expenditure, the rates aren't raised to support that capital expenditure. So if we don't meet the plan, rates are lower. We only charge the customer essentially for those projects we can work on and get done. So it isn't, we have a rate plan and we're charging the customers, but we're not meeting our infrastructure replacement. It's we're not charging the customer for that infrastructure replacement, which might have been delayed somewhat, if that makes sense.
If I may add to that, the FSO did a presentation in response to our budget memo at the last meeting where they detailed how those funds flow back. And a vast majority of the funds flow back in pass-throughs, or customers are saved by a debt load that would have occurred over a 20 to 30-year period. And the small amount that's not captured in those pass-throughs will be addressed in the interim rate review next year. So I'd be happy to walk you through that presentation and also show you how that feeds into the rate components for both the water and power rates.
Right, but we're still on schedule and on goal for the infrastructure for replacing.
Yes, as part of the rate action, we established a number of metrics looking at those critical capital infrastructure investments, trunk line, main line, reservoir improvements. So even though expenditures may be less, in many cases, a lot of those achievements are still being made. We're either on target or even ahead of target. We'll be coming back to, I think, in the next board meeting with the updated metrics report for the coming fiscal year. That reflect the targets we're looking at for next year and the status of where we're at this year. But actually, water system and power system both have been meeting a lot of those key metrics in terms of whether it's reliability, pole replacements, cross arms transformers, and the water side, trunk line, main line replacement. So we are underspending certain areas, but we're still achieving the most critical infrastructure investments. To the extent we're not spending, two-thirds of, on the water side, two-thirds of our rates are pass-through adjustment factors, which means we're not actually billing the customers for those that underspending. The customers aren't paying in advance. So I think that really is the kind of the benefit of that structure for our customers on the pass-throughs, is that to the extent that those expenditures are not being made for whatever reason, we're not charging the customers those dollars. And again, but the metrics will show that that the both systems, water and power systems, are by and large meeting their most critical metrics.
Okay, that's where I'm headed, because I want our ratepayers to know that they're going to get what they're paying for in what we promised.
Yes.
Particularly in infrastructure.
And those are the key investments. The largest increases we do see in the budget are for infrastructure and reliability.
I have a quick question around Scattergood and our, plans on either repowering or demolishing the project. So can you talk about the $51 million that is allocated, or $50.7 million that is allocated for this expenditure, and how much this is going to go for, retiring and demolishing the plant, and how much is going to be actually to continue generating power from the plant?
So of the $50 million there budgeted, like I said, the most part of that is, the majority of that is for the demolition that is about 50% complete of Unit 3. And the site preparation for whatever we do for repowering there. Currently, we're undergoing some new studies to look at what are viable alternatives and technology that will be available. It's important to know that Units 1 and 2 are about 70 years old. They're at the end of their lifespan. The reliability on those is decreasing rapidly as we go forward. So we're, like I said, currently the money that's being spent, none of that is being spent towards repowering Units 1 and 2. This is all for site preparation and demolition of Unit 3. The other thing to note is at some point when we do finish our studies and we do make a recommendation on what we feel is the best path to go for repowering or the solution there, that will all come back to the board for approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
No, I think this is. I think this is all I have for Scattergood. I mean, there are other coal projects that we relied on, and I know that in state mandate, once we expire in the contracts with any coal plants, we're supposed to replace them with renewables. So I was just particularly curious with this specifically generating station because, as we all know, we need to comply with state mandate.
That's correct. We are looking at renewables, and we have our goals for renewables and our requirements. But we also have to make sure that we have a reliable operating system, and that's what we're studying now. What are the options? What are viable technology that we can use, whether as a combination or in its entirety? So those are the studies we're undertaking to keep going.
And are we undertaking extensive studies also on renewables, specifically on the demolition of this plant? So what kind of studies are we looking at here?
Well, as far as the demolition, that is
And how are we going to be reliable?
going
I'm sorry.
forward, and how we're being reliable. Unit 3 was replaced with the previous repower. The demolition would clear property, because what our option is for the new repower, or however we replace that energy, we have to clear that site and build it prior to decommissioning units 1 and 2. So those studies are with reliability, with whether it's gas, whether it's battery storage, or whatever technology is viable. Those are the studies we're looking at.
And I know that we've had questions from our commissioners regarding how we move towards 100% renewable sources and such. And Power System is working, because we've been working, assisting them, looking at the financial implications and what the options are. And I believe there probably will be some responses back to the board coming up in the coming months, next few months.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree 100% with you, and I think we have a strong commitment from our mayor and this board to really move towards a much more renewable portfolio. So I'm expecting to see a lot of those studies coming up when we see this item again.
First, I'd like to thank the system, Jeff, Peltola, and Neil, for putting together a very informative and important forward-looking presentation that takes DWP into the next century. I have a few questions myself, but the hats off also goes to you, Dave, and to your staff for putting this together. I know that it looks just like this 40 or 50 page document that is another DWP document, but I know that there must be tens or hundreds of thousands of pages behind it. And thanks also to the public for their comments, and to the ratepayer advocate as well. I had a couple of questions for you here, Neil. Page 9, Power System. If we're going to the new commercial, industrial, and residential developments, these are developments that are already on the books and underway. I know that there are some areas in particular that are undergoing new redevelopment that will probably be getting more attention, namely in Pacoima and parts of East LA, and also the Central Corridor. These areas may not have the economic vitality that other areas do, but I've been I've been informed that they will be, and I think that those areas need to be called out specifically so that they're not left out, as if, you know, these are the only. I'm particularly thinking of undergrounding, which is a very important component to economic development, and so if that could be amended when this is presented again, or certainly noted, that would be important. The on page 11. I'm very interested in seeing the outreach program. When is that going to come before us?
I saw a draft of the plan last week, and so there's a number of questions that I've asked staff to respond to. So it's going to be in the next couple months. I mean, it's not going to be 6 months or anything.
So in the next few months. It seems to me that electric vehicles are part of the solution to reducing demand from energy efficiency or behind-the-meter actions taken by ratepayers. And it also, at least that's what I'm gathering, can help to smooth out some of the imbalances potentially if we can control demand or manage it better. I know that technology is increasing, but to the extent that we are unable to spend some of the money, which it seems like we've been having some difficulty doing, I'd like to see this 10 times the scenario somehow implemented. I don't know how we do that or what we're actually voting to approve. If we're voting to approve 10 times or 5 times, but I don't know if we, council, probably don't want to change the board resolution approving the budget, but I'd like to do something that more concretely commits the agency to these level 2 chargers, the separate quick chargers, and getting the infrastructure in place. I think the mayor's looking for us to, can't speak for the mayor, but I think that he's looking to meet these goals from the sustainability plan. Goals have been met, but with the range increasing on these electric vehicles over the next few years, it seems incumbent that we do make every effort to have the infrastructure in place. So, council, I don't know how.
So what I would recommend is that you make that instruction to staff, and then with a request for a report back from staff on that, leave the resolution as is.
Okay, so how would that make the staff committed to the 10 times versus the 5 times scenario?
They would constantly be reporting back to you on the schedule that you give them, and your monitoring would be that incentive.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Like I said, it will be 60 at the most 90 days when we bring that back.
Okay.
And again, you're looking at the current year budget, and that plan that we'll bring forward will be a 5-year plan, and that will then, if the board approve that, provide the direction to staff to include that in the next 5 years planning efforts and budgets and everything. So it gives you just what you said, and I very much appreciate your strong support on this. The state of California, LADW, well, City of Los Angeles included, cannot meet the greenhouse gas reduction goals we've set unless we significantly increase the number of electric vehicles and electrification of the transportation sector. So this is so important to everyone in California and very important to LADWP.
Okay, well, we'll take the report back, but if it's necessary, I'll talk to, I'm not going to have a mutiny here with President Levine, since it's the only board meeting that he's missed in 30 board meetings. But I know that he shares the approach of really trying to get these renewables in, and if electric vehicles are part of the equation, then I'll talk to him and see if there's anything more that we can do to nudge this, push this along and get it into place. When the electric vehicle report comes back, it would be very helpful to have a geographic location of where the electric vehicles are and where we project them to be based on industry trends and likewise the
socioeconomics.
Yes, thank you. Management knows of my concern, but here's my point. I worked with Marvin Moon. We talked to CARB. We got some very important information on this. The zip codes where the electric vehicles are in primarily affluent areas right now, even though I don't think that's the way it's going to be in the next 2 or 3 years. So I think that making sure that we try to predict demand and have some system to monitor that would be beneficial as well. And that goes for Pacoima and Panorama City as well as South LA. Commissioner Broad. Okay.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that the last commission meeting, I requested that we have some kind of plan from the department as to the community outreach. How are we going to let people know where the charging stations are? It's not satisfactory to just say, oh, well, you can get an app for that. I don't think that's the answer. How do we let people know where the charging stations are? Because people that I speak to are not buying those electric cars because they don't want to have to search for charging stations.
So I think that General Manager Wright read your mind while you were out, and he actually talked about the community. He said that there will be a community outreach plan on this issue when in the next couple 2 to 3 months. Yeah.
Well, we're on the same.
Page 27, Neil. Let's see. I want to just close the loop on this because I brought it up in the last budget proceeding last year. I understand economic development is being kind of reoriented and restructured, so I'm fine with that. So I'm not going to pursue the line further, and I assume that when it's restructured, we'll have a better idea of what they're doing in that group. Let's see. Oh yeah. So on, I would say the stormwater capture slide, that was 20.
I think it was 24? Slide number 24?
Oh, here it is. Page 24. I would also say, because it does seem to be a priority, and so long as it fits within your priorities, Dave and Marty and Richard, even though he's not here, that every effort be made to increase the investment in stormwater capture, particularly in basin opportunities that might exist. I know that the water system's been working a lot on dealing with where the Owens water goes, but the more water we have in the basin, the less we have to depend on things like that. Then the last thing is I believe one of the commenters had brought it up, and is it possible to do page 34? So scattergood repowering has connotations, and it sounds to me like this work was on its way, it's underway, it's contracted for, but is there a way of footnoting this or doing something to it so that we are not saying that we're firmly committed only to repowering? The options seem to be changing every 6, 12, 18 months. Battery technologies, things like that, that weren't in play 2 years ago are now in play now and maybe in play as alternatives. Is there a way of annotating this so that it's not like the board's committing to scattergrid repowering? I have a problem with committing to something when we're trying to at least do a pause and then see if that's the way that we go. So if there's, scattergrid, study or alternatives, something along those lines, it would be nice to change it to that, to reflect what the reality is, which is that it's under consideration and there'll be some decisions that have to be made in the next 12 months.
Correct. And we absolutely can. We tend to call the entire project the obviously scattergrid repowering, but as Andy mentioned, this is really the scattergrid decommissioning and site grading, if you will, and nothing else. So we can annotate this to just say this only includes decommissioning of an old unit and a site preparation, and just to kind of state more specifically, staff is undertaking a kind of review of the entire system with local generation. That's going to take a number of months, and nothing will move forward until the results of that study are brought back. And then you can see all the details, not just for scattergrid, but a number of the other natural gas peaking plants and reliability plants in the area. So it's very much what staff thought, let's relook at this whole thing, and they're undertaking that sort of a study, which takes a number of months to do, and then it'll be brought back at a later date. So we'll annotate this.
I want to thank staff, especially Rayco, Lewis, and I don't know how many other people I met with over the past 2 months to talk about this issue, but I learned a lot. I think that when it comes back, pictures, I like pictures, maybe it's a man thing, but some diagram of the units that are coming offline
Right.
versus the ones that are going back online and how many megawatts are in, would, I think, make some sense. It would help me understand it. When they started diagramming things out, it made a lot more sense, and it made me understand the complexity and also the importance of balancing the need for reliability as hard as we're trying to push for these renewables goals. We have to still look at balancing reliability. So appreciate the modification that could be made to what this is called. I think it'll send a signal to people that we're looking at it that way.
Absolutely. And if I can add.
You may. Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think it's really important that we show our ratepayers that we are headed towards a much more renewable portfolio, and how demolishing the scattergrid and how turning it into a much more renewable place for us, for power generation, is the way that we're headed. So I think it's really important, and thank you for pointing that out in this specific budget on how this footnote is really going to look like, and how we're really showing ratepayers what is our path to get to a much more renewable power generating station, at least with this one, or in the future, how are we replacing this reliability generation with other renewables.
Great job. Great job. Next item on the agenda.
Thank you,
Unless
Commissioners.
there are other comments. Yes.
If I,
Go ahead.
again, like the previous one, we put the discussions up front, but there are 2 items on the agenda later on, items 25 and 26, related to adopting the power budget and the water budget. If you'd like, you can take them now, or
We
you
have
can
2
defer.
public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to wait
Go ahead.
or wait for the?
You can take them out of order, Commissioner. Again, take the public comments now if you like and dispense with the item if you'd like.
Yes. We don't need a vote on that,
No.
right? Okay. All right.
Okay, we have 2 cards for 25. The first speaker is Angela Mazzaros.
So last year was my intention to replace that 25 with this 6E.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Actually, Evan Gillespie is the other comment card.
Yes, the other card is Evan Gillespie.
Similarly for him too. He
Oh.
replaced his comment.
Okay, all right, then I guess we don't.
I have one for 25. And I would take it out.
For what item?
25.
25?
Yeah.
Okay, then the card we have for 25 is Linda Romney.
Thank you. I'd like to address specifically from a ratepayer's point of view. As we've been asked to conserve on the water, basically what you're saying to us is we did a good job on conserving, and the HCL went down, and because of that, you're going to raise the water rates from the 5.9 versus the 5.3%. And that's because the revenue was reduced. Obviously, the revenue is going to be reduced because your ratepayers did a good job. And as a result of the ratepayers doing a good job, we, of course, get punished by having our rates increase. And secondly, let's look at the tiers that were presented. You've got 2 HCLs, and then you go into Tier 2 for your water. 2 HCLs per month for an average home of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths is the equivalent of flushing your toilet. So what you're saying to us is that we automatically go into and surpass rate structure Tier 2 because of the fact that we're flushing our toilets, which is absurd. Secondly, because 50% of the water is used for irrigation. We're talking about the fact that you want renewables to save the environment. You must, of course, know that there is an exchange between the carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. That exchange happens, as we know, from green living trees and from grass. As you are reducing the amount of water that we can use for irrigation, you'll see millions of mature trees that are dead, and you'll see in the San Fernando Valley dead lawns. I mean, it looks pathetic. And you're replacing them by stones. What occurs is that in the summer, you have a reflection of the sun, and it is not a project that we really need. Something needs to be done for the ratepayer.
Thank you. So why don't I read?
If I could,
yeah, go
Commissioner,
ahead.
just to respond, it's actually, Tier 1 is 8 HCF, and then above that, we were looking at here was just the typical customer consumption, which has been that 10 or below HCF. So that means the majority of our customers are actually conserving well, and their rates reflect the fact they're in Tier 1 and Tier 2. Very few customers at this point are hitting Tier 3. I think Tier 4 is about 4% of our customers. So the vast majority of our customers are within Tier 1 and Tier 2. Just wanted to clarify that it's at HCF is Tier 1.
I appreciate it. We normally don't respond to those
Absolutely.
comments, but I know that ratepayers don't like it when they see the optics of the rates going up. But I always tell people, just conserve harder than the rates are going up, and you'll come out even or better. So anyway, so is that it? Do we want to close things up?
Yes, if we could, we're happy to answer any additional questions. Otherwise, items, I believe 25 and 26 are the power and the water revenue fund budgets for the coming fiscal year.
Then I'll read them out. Can we take them up at the
You can
same
take them
time?
collectively, yes.
Okay. All right, item 25, fiscal year 2017-18 LADWP final budget, power revenue fund receipts and appropriations, final budget and associated schedules, and fiscal year 2017-18 annual personnel resolution. And item 26, fiscal year 2016-17 LADWP final budget, water revenue fund receipts and appropriations, final budget and associated schedules, and fiscal year 2016-17 annual personnel resolution. Is there a motion to approve these?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
So I think we're on management reports, item 7.
Yeah, so on the management report, Board President, we have a presentation to give. The presentation is regarding how we manage LADWP's dams and reservoirs. We also are going to be presenting on the Oroville Dam spillway damage and the response to that. So we have Adam Perez and Susan Rogani, Director of Water Engineering and Technical Services, that will be talking about how we manage our dams and reservoirs here at LADWP. After that, DeLon Kwan from our Water Resources Division will come up and address the issues about the Oroville Dam.
How long is this going to take, Anselma?
So,
No.
Adam's first presentation should be less than 10 minutes. So I'm not sure DeLon should be the same.
So it'll take a total of 20 minutes?
Or it could shorten.
What I thought we could do is deal with the consent agenda now and take it out of order, because we have a lot of people sitting here that might
here
want
all
to.
morning.
So why don't we go through the items right now that you would like to. Commissioner Broad, I know you had
Yes.
one you want to take off
Yes, I
calendar.
would like to pull item 31.
Item 31, the ratepayer, we dealt with 25 and 26, still just 29? You said 29.
We already voted that, so.
Okay.
We voted that was passed, yeah.
Glad somebody's counting. Dr. Pickle. Is that what you went to MIT for? Yes, Commissioner.
For item 31?
No. Do you want to take any off
No.
calendar? 0. Okay. So, let's see. Counsel, if you could correct me if I.
Let's just check with Barbara if we have any cards for any other items.
Just item 31.
Yeah. And 25, which we already voted on.
Didn't we just do 25?
Yes.
We did 20.
We just did 25 and 26.
So 31, we'll do the public comments later, and Commissioner Barad wants it off. So for item numbers 12, 13,
14, 15, 16.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, skipping 19,
That's deferred.
20, 23, 24.
What about 21
21,
and 22?
22.
I'm sorry. Wait, what did you say?
21 and 22?
Oh, I said 20
Yeah.
through 24.
24. 23, 24.
20, 21, 22, 23,
Okay.
24.
We just
Then-
did 25, 26.
Then 27,
Right.
then 28, we already approved 29. And then 30, through 34.
No, 31 you're
31's
you're holding till later because of
30,
speaker cards.
then 32 through 34. Then 36 we deferred, or we
No.
35.
35 we deferred. Then 36 through 39. Do we have to do Commissioner Fleming's on consent, or can we?
You can pull it off.
Okay, I'd like to pull that one off. So 36 through 38.
Okay.
Did you get all that, Barbara?
Yes.
Okay.
You're pulling
do you want-
36, right?
Mr. Chair,
Pardon me?
You're pulling 36?
No,
No, it's 39.
Oh, I'm sorry.
38, 39.
Mr. Chair,
39.
Got it.
Yes.
did you pull number 16, the payment to rent parking spaces? I have a quick question about that.
Take 16 out? Okay.
I don't, which one?
16?
16? The parking spaces?
Yeah.
We didn't pull that.
Yeah, no, we didn't, but we can pull it, okay? So, do you
Want
want
me
to
to recap?
read them back again?
Want me to recap them?
Yes, please.
Okay, we're now going to vote on items 12 through 15, 17, 18, 20 through 24, 27, 28, 30, 32 through 34, and 36 through 38. We pulled 16, 31, and 39 out.
Okay, is there a motion to approve those?
So move.
Is there a
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You can go. Management reports.
Okay, thank you very
You're
much.
up, Susan.
All right, appreciate it.
I promise not to ask you one question.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, today we have Adam Perez. Adam was our head of our geotechnical group, which manages the dams for the water system. He'll be going over the safety programs and monitoring we have for our dams and also the future plans for them. So, Adam, if you may. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Today I'm going to go over the managing LDP dams and reservoirs. So here's a quick outline of the presentation. And the overview is that the biggest point is the oversight of our dams and reservoirs is very important. And so for oversight, we have two main areas. We have our dam regulator, which is the Division of Safety of Dams, and they provide oversight and give us and they review our dams as well. They also issue, importantly to us, the operations, the certification to operate our reservoirs. We also have a board of consultants made up of 4 members, and they all come from different fields of engineering and also geology. Each member brings experience and expertise, and we meet with them regularly throughout the years and overlooking our projects. And so here's just a view of our members, and I'll go through them quickly. So at the top left, you have Lloyd Clough, and he is a former member of the California Seismic Safety Commission, and his expertise is geology. To the top right, you have Professor Idris. He's Professor Emeritus out of UC Davis, and his expertise is dam engineering. And then you have, to the bottom left, you have Professor O'Rourke out of Cornell University, and his expertise is lifelines. And then you also have Ross Bollinger, who is currently professor at UC Davis, and his expertise is geotechnical engineering. All of these members are they're part of the National Academy members, so they're very well recognized in the industry, and we meet with them, like I said, regularly throughout the years, and we discuss projects. So just to kind of go over our dam portfolio, the Department of Water and Power is actually considered a fairly large dam owner in the state of California. So we have, in combination of both water and power, there's 38 dams and reservoirs. The water system owns 34 of them, and the overall total capacity of the water system is 315,000 acre feet, or roughly 100,000 million gallons. When you look at the power system, they have 4 dams and reservoirs, and their overall capacity is 33,000 acre feet, roughly 11,000 million gallons of water. So I just wanted to go over just, kind of pick out a few of the reservoirs that we have. I want to go both in city and also over into the aqueduct as well. So in terms of the largest reservoir in city, it's Stone Canyon Reservoir, just above the densely populated area of Westwood. And it's a little over 10,000 acre feet of water. And then we have a Los Angeles Reservoir in the Sylmar area, which is 10,000 acre feet. And then we have, if you go along the aqueduct, the largest reservoir that the water system owns, and well, I say Water and Power owns, is Long Valley Reservoir, also known as Crawley Lake. And that one is roughly 184,000 acre feet, roughly 60,000 million gallons of water. And that one is north of the town of Bishop. Then you have Grant Lake Reservoir just to the west of Mono Lake, so it's quite up there along the aqueduct system, and that is 15,000 or so million gallons of water. So I just wanted to put in a bit of a note in regards to comparisons of the Oroville Reservoir and in regards also to our storage capacity. So Oroville Reservoir in itself is 3.5 million acre feet of water. And when you look at the total water and power storage, which we have between water and power systems, it is 350,000 acre feet. It's roughly 10% of just that one reservoir. So Oroville Reservoir, this last winter, when its water reached the spillway, probably was at 3.5 million acre feet. And that's why there was so much alarms going off, because of the volume behind that dam. So just want to go quickly now into the dam safety program. This is really the cornerstone of how we manage our reservoirs. And so I want to talk really quick about the detailed inspections. And so we have staff dedicated to do that, and our staff come from our reservoir surveillance group. We also have aqueduct reservoir keepers, hydrographers. And the types of inspections we do an annual inspection with the Division of Safety of Dams. And we also have reservoir surveillance staff that go out on a monthly basis, and they look at the dams and reservoirs. And we also have on-site staff, and that's our hydrographers, our reservoir keepers, and they're looking at our dams on a daily basis to make sure that they're actually behaving properly. And then overall, the formal approach that we have here at DWP is that on a monthly basis, we compare the performance of the previous data, and we're just basically looking at trends. So we on a monthly basis, we're looking at these at the reservoir, at the data, to make sure that that there's no kind of trends that are popping up that show that the reservoir is not behaving as it had in the month previous. So, and then also when we do these inspections, we can identify maintenance activities to make sure that, again, that our reservoirs are in good shape. So. And then monitoring reporting, when we look at our dam instrumentation, there are some key things that we're looking for. We're looking at the abutment movement, crest settlement, our reservoir water levels, seepage, as well as we also look at the earthquake accelerations after an event within the city or along the aqueduct as well. We have some of our reservoirs have real-time continuous monitoring, which is ultimately the telemetry. And we also have on a yearly basis, we do with our surveyors, we'll do movement and settlement checks as well for our dams and reservoirs. And then all this information is put together and is given to the Division of Safety of Dams, again, our dam regulator. And what they'll do is we create this report, and it's called the Reservoir Evaluation Performance Report. And that report is basically our report card. And with that report, the Division of Safety of Dams will look over the data, and they'll basically give us the permission to continually operate that reservoir the next year. So it's a very, very important part. And then also, just to kind of highlight, we have a very strong coordination and collaboration with the DSOD. So if an incident does come up, we are able to respond quickly with them and have them give us advice as well. So that's a very good thing that we have. And then just in terms of valuations, we look at, on a yearly basis, we look at several things. We look at the dams in regards to its seismic performance, its operational performance, and also its hydrological performance. And currently right now, I just want to highlight a few of them where we're looking at Bouquet Reservoir, Stone Canyon Reservoir, Tinnemaha Reservoir, and also Ivanhoe Reservoir just north there of Silver Lake Reservoir. So these are very much evaluations that we do on a yearly basis. And if something were to happen, in terms of response, kind of the key items there are inundation maps and something called emergency action plans. And these are things that the Division of Safety of Dams ensures that we have to have these in place in case an incident does occur. And so the inundation map, just real quickly, is just shows the maximum surface water elevation if the dam were to completely breach. And this information is passed over to the California Office of Emergency Services, and it's also provided to local emergency offices as well, local police and fire. And these are basically being updated for all of our reservoirs right now. The other item is the emergency action plan. And these provide the potential emergency conditions that that could occur after a situation. And so they describe procedures to follow for us to minimize the loss of life and property. And again, these are being updated for our reservoirs and dams currently right now. One of, again, this key item is staff development and expertise. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we have a board of consultants, and one of the key items here is that staff gets, on a regular basis, interacts with this board of consultants and goes over our dams and reservoirs and learns from this board of consultants. So it's a very important part that we have here at DWP. Other things we have specialized in unique training, and one of the things that we've done is we've worked with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and we sent staff out to Montana, and we worked with them on Fort Peck Dam and looking at the risk mitigation on that project. We've also worked with the Division of Safety of Dams, and that was on Headworks Reservoir. We worked with them on a very close collaboration looking at numerical modeling. So again, now that's us working with our regulator on a very important high-level types of analysis. We've also brought in high-level staff and professors to help us out. And one was on risk-informed decisions for our dams, and also looking at our site characterization as well for our dams as well. And then, so we're not only just consumers, we also contribute, and we contribute in the form of publications in the industry. And we've been recently recognized in the development of a site characterization tool that has now become standard throughout the industry of dam engineering. So that just shows that we are providing to the industry as well. And lastly, we participate in basically the two recognized dam societies here in the United States, which is the USSD and the ASDSO. So I just wanted to highlight some of the capital improvement projects that in regards to our dams. And one is, Bouquet Dams number 1 and 2. So that is roughly $90 million. We have a new dam that we're currently right now in design for, and we'll start to construction in a few years, and that is North Haywee Dam number 2 at roughly $127 million. There's also in planning, we have a new dam to be built, which is South Haywee Dam, which is a rehab project. It's an old dam. We'd like to rehab that, bring it back up to current standards. And we also have some enhancements that, again, along the aqueduct to Tittamaha Reservoir to identify that dam, to bring that one up to standard as well. So roughly we have over $400 million within the capital improvement program for these dams and reservoirs. So just the last slide here, just kind of moving forward. Even though we have a lot of these projects, there's still plenty of things to do. And so right now, the projects that we kind of highlighted for the future are Encino Reservoir, Eagle Rock Reservoir, Green Verdugo, and Upper Hollywood. We want to continue to update our inundation maps. We also want to continuation the development of our EAPs, and also update all of our dam instrumentation for our dams and reservoirs as well. So that's what I had, and hopefully this helps out with understanding of how we manage our dams and reservoirs. And if you have any questions, we could take them.
Very, very important and very helpful in light of all of the action over the past year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Okay.
No. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. DeLon Kwan with Manager of Water Resources Development. I'll try to make this quick. So I'm going to give you an update on the state's latest recovery efforts in response to the spillway damage in Oroville. So just a quick reminder, this is a map of California where the water supplies are for the city of Los Angeles. You see the imported supplies make up, on average, over the last couple of years, 85% of the city's water supplies. From imported water supplies, the LA Aqueduct is one source that we get from the Eastern Sierras. We also buy supplemental water from the Metropolitan Water District. Their main two primary sources of supplies come from the State Water Project, which exports water from the Delta into the Southern California region. That system's owned and operated by the State of California, Department of Water Resources. And then MWD also gets their supplies from the Colorado River. That system is managed by the Bureau of Reclamation on the federal side, and then MWD conveys that water to the region through their Colorado River Aqueduct, which they own and operate. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Oroville here, that's shown in the circle in the northern part of the system in the coming slides. So just to give you a quick overview in terms of the hydrologic conditions, you've probably seen this slide where historic record snowpack has been seen this year. This is kind of important because it feeds into how Oroville was operated. There could potentially be a similar situation next year, so we don't know. But this chart shows the snowpack conditions as of April 1st, so it peaked at about 150% of normal. The blue is the long-term average, so you can see pretty significant above average snowpack conditions that we're seeing. That means that the state was able to deliver 85% of its Table A allocations to the state water contractors. In terms of forecasted runoff on the Sacramento River, they're forecasting at least over 200% runoff from the Sacramento River, so that's roughly a little bit more than 37 million acre feet that's going to be coming into the Delta. So on the State Water Project, Lake Oroville is kind of the beginning of the State Water Project system. It's shown here, an image of the facility is shown here to the right. It has a maximum capacity, as mentioned earlier, about 3.5 million acre feet. So water that gets released from Oroville flows down the Feather River, and then it joins with the Sacramento River and then makes its way into the Delta right here in the middle part of the state. And then water is then further exported down to the south through the California Aqueduct, and then it branches off to the east branch and the west branch into the Southern California area. So this is a bird's eye view of the Oroville facility. So you can see here the main dam is right there in the top middle part. There's essentially only 4 ways that water gets released from Oroville. It can either be released through the Hyatt Power Plant, which is kind of here in the upper right. It can either be released also from a bypass valve, which is hidden here, which was inoperable at the time when the incident occurred. You also see the concrete spillway here towards the middle part. And then to the left of that is the emergency spillway path should that, when the emergency spillway was actually utilized. And you kind of see the parking lot up there to the far left. And just to give you perspective, so in the subsequent slide, I'm going to show you the extent of the inundation that was seen here at the facility. So this graph shows the fluctuation of the elevations in Oroville for the water year. So you can see the dark line was last year, so you can see the typical drawdown during the winter months and then make space in the reservoir to receive the inflow from the snow melt and then the drawdown to meet demands from April, May, June through September. The light blue is what was happening in the current water year. So you can see all the way up through December, it was pretty typical in terms of drawing down and making space in the reservoir. So as of early December, the elevation in Oroville was roughly about 730 feet. So over a 1-month period into early January, that's when the state saw several of those atmospheric river storms that caused huge inundation and precipitation into the Feather River watershed, which then caused pretty significant inflow into Oroville. And then you can see within a month period into from mid-December to about mid-January, the elevation in Oroville rose 120 feet, and that was roughly about 1.3 million acre feet that facility saw in a very short amount of time. You can see here at the very top in the dashed line, that's where the emergency spillway elevation is at, elevation 901. And the next slide I'm going to show you is right here in this location shown in the red arrow, just before that huge spike that was seen in the Oroville facility that then caused it to reach the emergency spillway elevation. So roughly around noontime on February 7th, as the Department of Water Resources was trying to keep up with the inflows coming into Oroville with releases down the concrete spillway, DWR noticed that there were some turbulent flows midway down the spillway, and what they saw when they shut the flows down to do further inspection is this area that you see here in the circle of the damaged concrete spillway there. This next slide shows a further close-up of the damage. You can see pretty significant erosion on the underneath the concrete spillway floor. You can also see erosion adjacent to the concrete spillway on the hillside area. What ended up happening too, so DWR was then now faced with the situation what to do with the storms that were also coming in or predicted to come in. DWR had to make a decision. The releases down at the Hyatt Power Plant was not keeping up with the inflows that was coming into Lake Oroville. So DWR had to make a decision at that time on how to manage releases. So they decided that in order to prevent the elevation from getting to the emergency spillway as much as they can, they decided to use the damaged spillway, knowing that as they do the further releases from the concrete spillway, that further erosion was going to be taking place, and they just had to manage that situation as it developed. So fast forward a couple days later, the inflows were continuing to increase into Oroville, and this is an image shown Saturday morning. You can see to the top there, the emergency spillway elevation was reached, and you can see the pretty significant erosion that also occurred on the path of the emergency spillway in that natural hillside area. You can see the road that led into the parking lot area there is completely inundated. You can also see that DWR was also still releasing flows as much as they could, knowing that the damaged spillway was continuing to erode during that time. So I've got a quick video footage here from DWR. It's drone footage that shows 24 hours later from February 11th. So this is 9:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Oops. So keep in mind, too, as more storms came, you can see in this image here, pretty significant erosion occurring to the left of the main concrete spillway as further flows continue to increase. You can see the Feather River down there on the upper part of the screen there. This is the other path that's being carved out now as a result of the emergency spillway being used. This is an image down at the bottom of the spillway. You can see pretty significant debris being deposited where the bottom of the spillway meets up with the Feather River. Hyatt Power Plant is up here in the northern part of the section. So you can see, as a result of the blockage here, also with the debris, flow was backing up to where DWR was now not able to utilize Hyatt Power Plant to do releases. So this is the emergency spillway being breached, or not breached, but flow spilling over into the emergency spillway. This is roughly about a foot above the emergency spillway weir, so you can see pretty significant amount of inflow that was coming into Oroville. You can also see the erosion along the path of the emergency spillway that led to the concern later that afternoon, where there was concern that the erosion that was taking place would lead back up to the emergency spillway, potentially causing the emergency spillway to potentially be breached. And then that's what led to the evacuation warning later that afternoon. So up here is that parking lot that visitors typically would be able to go to, and you can see the washout of the road pretty much being eroded away here. So now fast forward 2 more weeks later. This is when the storm subsided. They brought down the elevation in Oroville. This is the amount of debris that was deposited. You can see pretty much complete blockage of the flow path here on the Feather River. Feather River typically moves from right to left. This is all debris and foundation rock that's basically washed away from the erosion. You can see pretty significant erosion from the lower half of the concrete spillway here. As of right now, also Hyatt Power Plant was shut down because they could not operate that because of the backwatering into the facility. So now fast forward a month later, DWR implemented pretty massive response and recovery effort, 24/7 operation over the next month. You can see here from this drone footage also that I'm going to play for you. You can see most of the debris has, about 90% of it has been removed. I've heard anywhere estimates of about 1.7 million cubic feet of debris had been deposited in there. That's roughly enough to fill a little bit more than 2 times the size of the Rose Bowl. So you can see from this drone footage, pretty significant removal of the debris. Looking upstream of the system here, you can see the emergency spillway here. Previous, there was erosion here. During that break in the weather, DWR was able to get in there, do some patchwork with putting concrete pavement here to kind of shore up the area just downstream of the emergency weir. You can see the level here. This is roughly about 50 feet below the emergency spillway. To give you a magnitude of the size, those are people there at the upper part of the spillway. You can see the 24/7 operation with dredging and heavy equipment removing the debris. You can see the flow current here is pretty good. This is, I think, about 20 to 30,000 CFS from flows coming out of the higher power plant that they got back up and running when they were able to clear out the flow blockage here on the Feather River. So in early April, DWR released their recovery plan. So they do have a plan to at least get a portion of the spillway as well as the emergency spillway to be repaired as much as they can by November 1st of this year. So they did send out a notice to bid to contractors. It basically has three components as far as this recovery plan. First part is to repair and shore up the upper part of the spillway chute. So this is potentially replacing drains and any other sections that they can get in time before the November 1st completion time. The main significant portion of the work is going to be happening in the lower chute area. This is going to be potentially filling in with roller compacted concrete as one method to fill in a lot of the erosion or the eroded areas on the lower part of the chute. And the third component of this recovery plan is to continue to shore up the area in the emergency spillway, either continue to help with providing some retaining walls to prevent any sloughing that might occur should they ever have a need in the future to utilize the emergency spillway again. So this plan is in the works. So there is the ability by DWR to operate this facility even in its damaged condition. So the plan is to potentially, with this break in the weather now, between now and November 1st, in time for the next water year, to get this all shored up. So that was kind of a brief overview in terms of how Oroville is being operated. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how the water supplies and the conveyance and the management of the supplies that come from Oroville is going to be taking place. So when flows are released from Oroville, it makes its way into the Delta. The other contribution to flows coming into the Delta before they're exported to Southern California comes from the San Joaquin River flow. And one of the main benefits with a high San Joaquin River flow this year is it's been propping up the exports to Southern California. So even though the issues with Oroville was happening with the Sacramento River flows that were being released from Oroville, it's because of the high flows, pretty historic flow conditions also in the San Joaquin River flow that has helped to maintain the high exports on the state system coming into Southern California. So another major reservoir system south of the Delta, offstream, is the San Luis Reservoir. It's currently still full. This is good news in that there's adequate supplies then for MWD and the state to deliver to the Southern California region. And this is my last slide. This shows kind of the regional storage that Metropolitan has right now. This is storage that they have both in their rights on storing water in Lake Mead as well as rights to store water on the State Water Project system. MWD also has water banking programs that they can rely on to help store water. So this slide basically shows the amount of water that's been put into storage and the amount of water that's been drawn from storage to meet deliveries during dry years. So you can see in 2017 where MWD for the region started out at 1.3 million acre feet with all the projected excess water supplies both from the state system as well as the Colorado River system, as well as the region doing tremendous work in terms of conserving water, keeping demands low. MWD is projecting to almost double their amount of storage that they're going to be able to put into regional storage by almost doubling it to about 2.4 million acre feet this year. So overall, this is good news in terms of for the region, in terms of storing water when it's available during wet years, and then nobody knows in terms of what's going to be happening next year. So in terms of what MWD is doing for the region, as well as what LA is doing also in the areas of conservation. So we think overall, the region and the city is in pretty good position to deal with whatever hydrologic conditions that might come up in the future. So overall, the region is doing pretty good in terms of getting that water into the Southern California area to meet any potential future demands that the city has. So that concludes my presentation, so I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners? No. Thank you very much. It was very important. So, Dave, do you want to try to power through this and then go to lunch, or how do you want to do this?
If it's going to be brief, it probably is easier to do right now, less than 10 minutes. If we think it's going to be
I'm fine with that. If we can try to. So next item on the agenda is closed session. We're going to rearrange that and put that after agenda item number 9, filed items, monthly reports. 9A, financial services organization activities.
The report's filed. Happy to answer any questions.
I think we've heard enough from you, Neil.
Thank you.
But we want to hear more. But thank you. 9B, power system monthly reports.
Those reports are filed for January, February, and March. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Commissioners? 9C, water system monthly reports for October through November.
Those reports are filed. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioners? Commissioner? Item 10, discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk, which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board. Barbara?
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. We deferred 11. We're moving quickly here. Let's see. I think what we have remaining are the 2 items that Commissioner Barad and Commissioner Vasquez asked for. And then we'll go into closed session. Council, is that right?
We have 3 items. We still have Commissioner Fleming's resolution.
Okay, that's right. So item number 16. Resolution authorizing payment to rent parking spaces for overflow employee parking spaces for employee parking. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, so I wanted just to have a little bit of discussion, and I know as our workforce gets larger, just like anything else, and our building remains the same, and we need these, parking spaces to obviously accommodate our staff. What are other alternatives that we're looking at, and besides renting other space for parking? So, like for example, this is a pretty, substantial amount of money annually. So, I know that in the world of innovation and technology, they use a lot of like shuttle bus where they get picked up from different places, employees, so that also really supports the idea of much more sustainable transportation instead of like we all drive here and we all, emit so much CO2 emissions. So I was wondering if maybe, David, you can speak a little bit about what are the other options that we look at besides renting parking spaces?
Sure, let me go through briefly, and then if you want more information, staff is here and can provide that. We offer a number of different alternatives for staff. We offer a subsidy if you'd like to take Metrolink in. We have carpools, 8 and 12 member carpools. We offer an amount to employees who will take a walking sort of approach, who might live close. We actually provide them a small incentive to walk instead of drive. So, because we're very cognizant of needing to meet AQMD air quality goals. So there's, again, mass transit, carpooling, walking incentives, and then finally we're looking at a space planning, sort of a longer range plan to pull people out of the congested downtown area and put them in areas that, again, have access to all those different areas, but won't have staff having to drive all the way downtown. They can be in a couple of remote locations so that, again, we reduce the amount of fuel used by people sitting in traffic fighting their way downtown during rush hour. So those are some of the programs that we offer to our staff. Again, I've got people here if you'd like to get more depth.
Okay. And staff want to maybe talk about the idea of maybe more sustainable ways instead of having parking?
Sure. This is Linda Young, Business Support Services, Car's office. So what we're exploring and researching currently, when we've been working with Marvin Moon on the power side, is...
Could you bring the microphone closer to you? Thank you.
We're exploring with Marvin Moon the possibility of turning our van pool rideshare program into some EV vehicles, EV vans. We are also exploring possible piloting an EV carpool program. So these are very early stages, but we are currently exploring and researching the possibilities of going this route in the near future. We are definitely looking at renewable, sustainable rideshare program. We're talking to the city more to see what they're doing. Airports has their own rideshare program. We are discussing these issues with them also.
Thank you. And would it be possible for us to look at what would it be like if we have a location where some of our employees come and hop on the bus? And I'm stealing this idea from our fellow city in San Francisco, where a lot of the startups and the Silicon Valley folks commute from different areas from San Francisco in a big shuttle bus where they'll hop on the bus and come to their location of work. I especially like the idea of the EV vehicles, and also the remote, considering a remote location, but I know that that's probably also as costly or maybe more costly. So I would like to see maybe from the staff maybe to look at some sort of innovative idea in which we can do not just a van share, but like let's get on the bus and try and see if we can transport staff and just maybe looking at what is the financial impact. Is it as much as getting these many parking spaces somewhere, or trying to figure it out where we're going to fill this down? As you mentioned, David, Mr. Ray, I'm sorry, there is a lot of congestion already in downtown, so how can we contribute to not have so much congestion here?
Sure. We'll bring that back at a future date.
Thanks. So, Council, I don't know if we still need to vote on this, even though we might request, or if we can defer. How does this work?
So on this item, this is an item, my understanding from staff is one where they require the funds in order to do these. These are ongoing vehicles, but you can, again, request a report back on the items that you requested from General Manager Wright. But for this specific item, you should still take a vote on the item today because of its time constraints.
So if I might also, so these are rental for spaces we need. Mm-hmm. We can pull out of that rental in the future if other alternatives are identified. I would be a little anxious not moving forward until other alternatives are identified, because we still have all of that staff coming to this building and having problems finding the spaces. So my recommendation, again, that's just a staff recommendation, is if you could approve this and then request that we come back to the board with alternatives, and at that time, if there are identifiable alternatives, we can scale back these leases and get out of the parking spaces because we've got an alternative to offer staff. Right now, we wouldn't have an alternative to offer them, and they have to get here somehow.
Excellent. So now we can move up a motion with that friendly amendment.
Sure.
So basically moving a motion to pass the payment to rent parking spaces and overflow parking for the amount of $1,200,000 with the amendment that it will come back with a report for other more sustainable and maybe more cheaper options, and that we can scale back possibly in the future. Does that sound like a motion to you?
The department will come back and report to you those options.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
your motion?
Okay.
And with the friendly
second?
amendment,
I second.
Thank you.
First, you need a second on the motion, correct?
I did.
Okay,
and
second
then
on the motion.
adopt the motion.
And on the amendment.
And then a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
So moved.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Broad.
Yes. Thank you. I have several questions regarding item number 31.
And I do have 2 speaker cards for 31 as well.
Okay.
You wanted,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did you want to do the speaker cards first?
Why don't we have
Do
the
the
speakers?
speakers first.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the first speaker is Thomas Sullivan.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Tom Sullivan, and I'm president of Ultimate Recycle, and our sole product is a 100% recycled cold mix asphalt. Our company responded to the LADWP IFB 826 and submitted an equal product as allowed in page B2, paragraph 4 of the bid document. Our product is 100% recycled. It's used by LA County, Public Works, LA County Rec and Parks, Southern California Edison, other city governments in LA County, and just recently the Bureau of Street Services has recently paved an alley with our product in anticipation of using their excess street grindings, of which, as you know, there are piles all over the city. We delivered 2,500 pounds of our cold mix to your Palms Yard about 6 months ago for testing and got back favorable results from the field, the guys in the field. The LA City Standards Lab, which is a division of General Services in the city, and the most prominent asphalt lab in the country, by the way, has been continually testing our product since 2013 and favorably compares it to the leading brand Craftco used by the city and the county of Los Angeles. We were the low bidder on this project by $170,000, and LADWP expedited our application for the LBE status, local business enterprise, even insisting that we extend our office lease to correspond to the amount of years that the LBE lasts. We were granted that status on April 17th. The staff recommends that our competitor get the bid even though we were low bidder. I don't feel that we've gotten a fair shake in testing our material by LADWP, and I wonder if anybody checked with Bureau of Standards to see what they had to say about it. This seems to be the main problem with rejection of our product, and I would ask the board, direct that LADWP do further testing on our product before awarding this contract.
Thank you. Next.
The next speaker is Gary Townsend.
Hi, my name is Gary Townsend. I'm not going to add a lot right now because I'd like to hear your discussion, but I just urge you to be creative in the way that you deal with this. This is really an opportunity to take a leadership position in the field of sustainability, a product which the staff report recommended a 15% recycled content. That doesn't pass the common sense test. So I just urge you to be creative in the way that you deal with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last card.
Okay. Commissioner Barad,
Thank you.
you want to wait for,
I'll wait for their presentation.
yeah, or
Gwendolyn Williams, Director of Supply Chain Services.
Bassam Abu Shakra, Power Engineering Division.
Charles Richardson, Contract Administrator.
Thank you.
We received correspondence from Ultimate Recycle. One related to the local business preference, which we referred them to the Bureau of Contract Administration so that they could get certified. Even though they weren't certified at the time of the bid, the Bureau certified them as a local business preference after the bid. And then we, our vendor authentication unit steps in and looks at for that particular product that they're submitting, do they meet our requirements in terms of being a local business? Do they have a warehouse? Do they have the facilities where they manufacture this equipment, et cetera? However, when we asked the staff to respond to whether or not the material was an equal and met the technical specifications, they determined that it did not, and therefore we deemed them technically non-responsive and therefore ineligible to be the low bidder. And I'll let Bassam and Charles talk about the technical aspects.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we have a district, Palm Districts, that they did get a sample of this material. And before applying it on the street, where you put a cover plate and you try to put the cold asphalt, they used it inside the yard to make sure that it's safe to be installing it in the public. And they have some issues where it wasn't durable, it wasn't sticking, and it was getting loose. So our staff, our construction crews, we have supervisors look at it, we had a couple, the crews look at it. So that's an in-house evaluation. And again, this bid closed February 8th, and we didn't rush into the evaluation. Charles contacted the LA County, and also LA County, they used it and said they have some issues. And we do have a document from them saying that they do have an issue with this material. It's not durable and it does not stick to the ground. It becomes loose. So that's the issue with, and our contract, our specification copies exactly what the city purchases, what they use, for cold or hot asphalt. This contract is a large contract. It's for $8 million, but it was divided into two separate groups so we can award them separately, because there are some people that make the hot asphalt that our people go to their plants and pick up the hot asphalt. It's only good for 2 to 4 hours, and then they deliver the cold asphalt. So this is our evaluation, that we do have language in the spec where we can accept equivalent material. What we don't consider this to be an equivalent material. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. I read carefully the letters, several letters from Ultimate Recycle, outlining the chronology of this and the responses, and also our material that we were given regarding the contract to go to Sully Miller. And I have a lot of problems with it because it's obvious in reading all this information that Ultimate Recycle is definitely a local business. And I don't know why there was some problem in identifying them as a local business. They're located in Monrovia. That's number one. The other thing is, and Sully Miller is a multinational company based in France. The other thing is about, you mentioned about you have issues with technically, and yet the Bureau of Street Services is using this product and has paved an alley. So what has their experience been with this product? What did they use? Have you spoken to the general manager from Bureau of Street Services to see what his evaluation is of this product? My third item, then I'll let you answer everything, is the recycled. I'm at a loss to understand why staff recommends 15% recycled project. I don't know where that number comes from. And this is 100% recycled. And it seems to be counterintuitive for the department, our Department of Water and Power, and all our emphasis on recycled and reusable and sustainable, not to give some kind of preference or points to a company that is using recycled product. So if you could answer each of those.
Okay, let me address the first question related to the local business preference.
Yes.
There's two categories that you can be certified as a local business preference. And the Bureau of Contract Administration with the Department of Public Works is the administrator for that program. They're the ones that certify businesses as to whether or not they're local or small local businesses. Ultimate Recycle was certified as a small local business. And that only applies to contracts up to a certain dollar value. They were not certified as a local business because there's different standards. You know, you would think if they're a small local business, they're also a local business, but that's not true. The Bureau of Contract Administration has different requirements for each of those certifications.
Who are those people?
The Bureau of Contract Administration, they work for the city, the Department of Public Works. They're the administrator of the local business preference program.
Well, that's certainly contradictory. I mean, they're located in Monrovia. They're either local or they're not local.
But they have different qualifications for them. It's not a matter of just being local. For instance, they've got administrative guidelines. Because one of the problems that we've had, just very frankly, with the local business preference program is, and it doesn't necessarily apply in this case, but there are people that have tried to game the program. They'll say that they're a local business, but all they are is a pass-through. They've just set up a telephone in an office, and it's one person.
Well, was that the case with this?
No, as I said, it does.
Okay, so that's not the case here.
No, it's not the case.
This is a legitimate local business.
Right. One of the other things that's required is that they are certified as a local business at the time that they submit the bid. They were not. They were certified as a small local business, which only is for contracts $150,000 or less. They were not certified to get the preference for any contracts over $150,000. It's a separate process that we don't control. We don't, if someone just says they're local but they don't have a certification, we are not able to credit them being local in our procurement process.
But they are certified now?
They are certified now as a local business.
What made the difference?
They went and got the certification from the city.
So are you identifying them today as a...
They are certified as a local business preference. We also go through a process of trying to ascertain, you know, is this a legitimate business or not just a business that has a phone and a post office box? We stopped that process once the technical staff said that they didn't meet the technical requirements. Prior to, we did some due diligence, which I'll let them speak to, but we asked our people where they delivered these pallets what they thought about the equipment, the material, and they said they didn't like it. It wasn't durable. We also have an email from the County of Los Angeles. He referenced that, Mr. Sullivan referenced that he had a contract with the County of Los Angeles, and I'll read it to you if you'll allow me. It says, with regards to the performance, we bought this product and tried it, but received several short complaints. Frankly, the crews were very disappointed with the quality. The product did not stay in the potholes. We even had to exchange 6 pallets for lack of moisture, which, by the way, the vendor had no problem and quickly switched. But in the end, the quality was still not meeting the trade's expectation. So when they were saying that the quality didn't have enough oil in it, they said as soon as the crews drove their truck across the asphalt that they'd installed, that it adhered to the tires. It did not stay in the street. So I asked the staff.
Is this hot or cold that you're
Cold. Yeah, we're only talking about the cold. They spoke only about the cold asphalt.
You mean the county?
No, I'm talking about Ultimate, the company. The hot asphalt, the low bidder is Solar Miller. So we're only talking about Group 1, which is the cold asphalt.
Cold.
Yes.
And what did the Bureau of Street Services use?
Well, I did not. We didn't contact.
We weren't aware. They didn't reference that organization in any correspondence until recently.
Yeah.
So we weren't aware. We reached out to the county because, I guess, Charles, you.
Yeah, I did contact the county. They did forward me that email and some other information about how they were using the material. They tried it, just like I spoke to Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Townsend, and we agreed to test it, and I talked to our guys as well. But the main issue is that they're providing us recycled asphalt, whereas reclaimed has more oil and it bonds better, so it sticks to the road better. So for the work that they do, they need to make sure when they do a job once, they don't have to go back and do it again. What we saw in the yard is that they had to go back and redo it.
So we did test it in our yard, and our crews were concerned. They didn't want to put it on the street where there's heavy traffic. So they did test it in the yard, and it unraveled. That's the word that they use. It unraveled, and it did not work.
And I also have an email from the staff person that did that testing, where he says that he advised that we do not purchase the product since it does not have the durability that we need in the public right-of-way.
Well, I would be curious to know what the Bureau of Street Services, what their experience has been, since Mr. Sullivan said that they use that product. Okay, and then what about the recycled?
We follow the Public Works Green Book, which is the construction. So it's not DDP that requires, because the streets belong to the city. So when we write a contract for hot and cold, it's defined by the Department of Public Works. So that's the requirement, and they've done a lot of testing. They see what will adhere, what will stick. So it's not a DDP spec. We do have our own spec, but then we include that language that the city has.
That's the 15%?
Yes.
And it's that's it. I mean, they request 15%, or they recommend 15%.
Excuse me, 15% recycled asphalt.
Okay. So when you're considering these bids, do you give points for those companies that are using recycled products?
We're not allowed to under the...
Commissioner, we have to follow the technical requirements of the bid. So you don't get bonus points for doing something that doesn't comply with the technical requirements of the bid if the technical requirements don't meet, if what you're adding doesn't meet the technical standards. So there are technical standards you have to follow. If that technical standard is up to 15% recyclable, you can't go above that, so we can't change the bid specs.
All right, so then I'm not satisfied with what we're calling recycled then. I mean, 15% doesn't sound like very much. So is this a number that someone's come up with because
Commissioner,
of what?
I think what's important to clarify in this instance is that we don't set the standard for the road material that's used. Our folks, our crew goes out, they do work, they have to repave the road according to the standards that are set for the road. And these are the standards that are set by the city. So we follow the standard that's set by the city. It's their determination as to what qualifies for us to use. This is not a situation where we're procuring something and we're setting the standard. We have a standard that is set for us in this instance.
So, all right, so then what you're saying is that we don't give any extra points to a company that is more than 15% recyclable.
Again, we can't, and that also doesn't meet the spec standard.
Okay, anything else?
I just want to mention, we do have an environmentally preferable products program. We just had a workshop a week before last where we encourage vendors to come in advance and present their products to us. And we did that. We're the host organization, but we invited the Bureau of Sanitation, the harbor, the airport, Public Works over, and to facilitate the introduction of these products into our system. And we work with them, to try and see if they're presenting something that we'll be able to use in the future. We're going to, like the traffic cones that you approved today to purchase on consent calendar. We had a company come in and present a more recyclable traffic cone. So we're going to be modifying our specifications to be able to accommodate that traffic cone the next time we go out and buy them. But in this case, as Joe and the technical staff said, we're not able to set the standard for the asphalt because it's in the street that we don't control. But we do make an effort to actively reach out to firms to include sustainable products in our wheelhouse.
Jill, what is your concern here? Because it sounds like a bigger policy issue over the recyclability. Like, we want to encourage companies that recycle, and it sounds to, maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, but if I could, it seems like it bothers you that we're penalizing the recycler here, the company that's 100% recycling, among the other things that you've pointed out, and it seems like it might be a bigger policy issue at the Nancy Sutley level that's enterprise wide that we could. I think it's a good point that you bring up, but I think it's something that's more of an enterprise-wide thing that we would need to look at it for.
Commissioner, it's analogous to what we do sometimes, for instance, with plumbing fixtures. Again, we don't have the ability to control public fixtures. That's done with building and safety and other entities. So this limited instance here is one where we are following the standards that are set, and we don't have jurisdiction over those standards.
Separate and apart from that's our kind of legal thing. I think this
on
is
a policy level.
I was trying to just address her concern more because this doesn't seem to be the right place to do it, but maybe suggesting some alternative.
Well, there are several. Reading back on all the correspondence from Ultimate Recycle over the past several months, it seems to be many issues here. Identifying them as a local business, and then the recycling, and they also were the lower bidder. So it seems like they didn't get. Then all of a sudden, you took off some numbers, I don't have it in front of me, from Sully Miller. I didn't understand why you did that. You gave them credit for something, and then they became the lower bidder.
Sully Miller is certified as a local business.
If I could interject.
And that's why they got, local businesses get an 8% preference. So we pay 8% more when a business is local. So if a business is in China and we have someone that is here local, even though the business in China might have had the low bid, if we have a local person that's 7% more, they will get that contract.
Okay, so I guess the question is that, did Ultimate Recycle get the benefit of the what is it, 8%, and as well as Sully Miller? Or it seemed to be a little capricious that all of a sudden Sully Miller got the 8% when the other company is the local company.
Sully Miller also has been certified as a local business by the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Even though they're based in France.
Their headquarters are based in France, but the way that the local business preference program is set up, if they have a local office and they have 50 or more employees here in Los Angeles, then they can get that local business preference.
I did want to interject here, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of want to bring this back to what everything that you've said, which basically staff tested the asphalt and it didn't work. It was coming up out of the pothole and sticking to the tires. So staff wouldn't make a recommendation if this was the only provider of asphalt. Staff would reject it and say, we're not recommending that we purchase it. So there are a lot of questions about local preference and local bid and composition, but at the end of the day, based on the testing and the references that we checked, we wouldn't make a recommendation to purchase this material, even if this was the only contractor that responded to the bid, because it didn't meet the basic technical specifications. So in all of our bids, first you have to meet what we need. That's the first hurdle you have to jump over. The next hurdle start to get to price, local preference, everything. But if the product doesn't work, we will never recommend to the board to make any approval of that product, because right now it isn't ready yet. I mean, the product isn't working yet. Maybe there's some work and some research and some additional things that need to be done over time so that we then can take this product. But Public Works is obviously going to have to approve those specs. But basically the very first thing that needs to happen is that this material could work.
I understand that. I mean, if you're going to have brain surgery, you want someone who's done it before. I get that.
You haven't seen the new healthcare plan that's out, have you?
Yeah, it just seemed in reading all of this, both from the department and from the applicant, that there were a whole lot of missing pieces that just kind of didn't go together for me. And like I say, restate that I would be curious to know what the Bureau of Street Services, what their experience has been with the product.
If I could offer just a little different view, I think the one weakness on our part is our willingness to try to cooperate with vendors and to try new materials.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be very easy early on to just say, it doesn't meet this, sorry, goodbye. We did our best. Gwen's folks worked with them on the local preference to get them registered. We tried it out in our yard. We gave a lot of deference to try a new product because we were interested in recycling and things like that. It would have been much easier just to say, this is black and white, cut and dried, you're either in or out. We did our best to try to make this work, and it just didn't work.
Okay, but may I make just a request that you ask Nazario Saceda, who's a general manager of Bureau of Street Services, what their experience
I took note.
You made a note?
Yes.
Gracias.
Finished?
I think I'm finished.
All right. Commissioner Hoskins, do you have any questions?
Pretty
Is there a motion? Is there a... This is 31, right?
Yes.
Contract number 826 for hot and cold mix asphalt concrete, Sully Miller Contracting Company, DBA Blue Diamond Materials. Is there a motion to approve?
Would it be appropriate to defer this until we get a report back from Bureau of Street Services?
I don't think so, because even under those circumstances, they're still not the low bidder.
Well, not only that, we've already heard from General Manager Wright saying that they would be rejected anyway because it's not inferior product. Based on our own staff's assessment, it's that
Well-
this staff assessment's not going to change. So,
Now, is it possible that this contract could be split and that the whole thing not be awarded to one applicant, one vendor?
Again, that was not the bid.
What?
So that was not what, through the bidding process, that is not what people were bidding for. So you can't change the bid at the award process.
I thought that somebody mentioned that.
Yes, like I mentioned, Group 1.
mentioned
There were two different groups.
Yeah, two
in the
different
bid.
groups. Group 1 is the
Yes.
cold asphalt, and then Group 2, 3, 4 is the hot asphalt. So we do have two separate groups, but what Joe is referring is we cannot split Group 1 into another group because that's not how the bid is structured. And one thing I'd like to add is our specs are written where normally we do ask for samples if we have a new bidder. We do ask. In this case, we already have the samples. We already tested it. So, this is not just for this contract. Any contract, when we have a new bidder that we're not familiarized with, we ask for a sample, and then we test it in-house, and then we report back. That's all I want to say.
thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
As it stands, or with any of Jill's suggestions as it stands? So I move to approve contract number 826 for a hot and cold mix asphalt concrete award to Sully Miller Contracting Company, DBA Blue Diamond Materials, for the term of 1 year, with two 1-year renewal options.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, you don't. I'm sorry. We had a nay, so you
need
can't.
four.
You need a vote of 3, Commissioner.
Okay. All right.
So motion doesn't pass. Thank you.
I think that's it.
With that, we.
Item 39?
That's right.
Commissioner Flemings.
Item 39, how could we forget? I just wanted to express my pleasure and good fortune of having worked with Michael Fleming. He was a quiet supporter of the many things. He did things such as taking the lead on being a provisional director that consumed a lot of time but didn't get a lot of positive or negative press coverage out of. He didn't do things for the camera. He did things because they were the right things, and he was an enormous supporter for the Equity Metrics Data Initiative and informed my views on, in particular, on the LGBTQ elements of it in particular. So I want to say that before offering a motion to approve the resolution in 39 for the honoring Michael Fleming for his service to the DWP Board of Commissioners. Is there a second?
I just wanted to add that I think it's a loss to our board that he decided to leave, and he brought a different perspective to us, and he had a great sensitivity to the public relations part of DWP, and that I thought that was very important, since considering over the past several years, and that he was sensitive to the optics and how we did things and how it was portrayed on the media and the stakeholders. And he had a fine mind, and I miss him. I'm glad to have Aura here, but I really I have a lot of trouble with separation, so. But anyway, no, I'm really miss my.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Michael. Good looking.
At this point, we will recess into closed session, take up the items on the closed session agenda, and in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we will report any final actions taken thereon.
Thanks.